Welcome to episode 137 of the Grip Strip Podcast, They Made It Through edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host, and I'm with my co-host, Josh Fine, from a different location this week. What's going on, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm a little bit more chilly than normal than in Florida. Of course, getting a little bit of rain here, probably from the remnants of Hurricane Ian, which actually got a little bit affected by that. Lost a little bit of power on Wednesday night, and part of my backyard fence in the house that I'm renting got blown down. But other than that, no real issues there. But everything's good there. But yeah, really interesting weekend of racing, Talladega. A lot cleaner than expected. We had a lot of good racing throughout Xfinity and Truck and Cup Series, which seems like the last couple of years has not been the norm. A lot of crashing. So we'll get into it. Formula One. A little bit different expected winner there. Still a Red Bull, but not Max Verstappen, but only because they messed up in qualifying with their fuel strategy there. And, NFL wise, Jacksonville taking a loss, but maybe not as bad of a loss, only losing by 8 to the best team in the league. So can't be complaining too much there. But yeah, ready to get into it here tonight on the show.
Yeah, and in fantasy, you're still in the mix. You're still going to finish top 5 this week in terms of points. So it's a net win in that sense for you. For me, as Josh mentioned already, all 3 NASCAR series ran at Talladega this past weekend. As he said, cleaner than usual. I think it's a response to what happened to Alex Bowman, what has been going on in recent weeks. There was the incident for Jordan Anderson that we'll get into later. Thankfully, he's going to be okay. Nick Bosa almost got there. So I'm going to be doing live responses to the Monday Night Football game since the San Francisco 49ers are playing right now. Oh, and MAGA Boy actually has a weird new helmet that I guess protects his head or something. I've never seen a helmet like that. We'll get in all 3 series in NASCAR. The Truck Cup and Xfinity will be at the Roval this coming weekend. We'll make picks on that later. Clyde gets his 5th win of the 2022. Josh was in person with a couple of Clyde fans, so we'll probably bring that up here in a minute. Briscoe and Cindric tied for the cutoff going to the Roval. AJ Allmendinger wins on a restrictor plate track finally, and locks himself in, gets a free roll at the Roval, as it's likely that he will be announced later this week as a full-time Cup Series driver for his 3rd stint in the Cup Series, since his first stint was back with Red Bull, and then he ran I don't know how many years with whatever Richard Petty Motorsports and all kinds of other entities. He eventually ended up at Penske, got nailed for whatever drug use or whatever it was. And then for Adderall, which they also ran Jeremy Mayfield out of the sport with. Then he went and joined JTG Doherty, ran in the Cup Series for a few years, then decided to fall back into a limited schedule and became friends with Matt Kaulig and Chris Rice. And he's been the best driver for Kaulig Racing this year by far, no matter what vehicle he's been in. And now they're going to pay him back and have him drive the 16 car because, to be fair, he's been the best driver in their Cup cars too. And he would have been a contender for the playoffs if he'd actually run the full season. So in his 3rd stint in the Cup Series starting next year, so that'll be great for the sport. Justin Haley's dad, as he likes to call him, will be up there to be his teammate again. We'll get into all the nonsense. I'm not really get into that truck stuff yet, because I have my thoughts. Formula One, Grand Prix of Singapore, they delayed. We'll get into that. They delayed it an hour for whatever reason. It was greasy. The best drivers, theoretically, 2 of the best drivers in the sport made mistakes in that race. Sergio Perez definitely didn't and won over the Ferrari duo. And then there's the issues of the cost cap breach that probably are going to get annoyed or get ignored the same way as Checo did for breaking safety car rules. But then it doesn't matter. Red Bull can do whatever they want. Teat Le Mans took place last week. In the roundup, we'll start with that. Acura takes home the DPI title. Which team takes home the DPI title? We'll get into that. And there's been testing today for the GTP cars, the brand new LMDH category cars, and news in regards to what Ganassi's second Cadillac program will be doing in the World Endurance Championship, who the drivers will be. We'll get into all that. MotoGP at Thailand sees the MotoGP World Championship tighten up even to as close as it's been in months, with an absolute awful result for Fabio Quartararo. In Moto2, Sean Dillon Kelly gets his first career points, while Cameron Beaubier crashes out in the first lap in his last few rides in Moto2 before he comes back to the United States. But SDK gets his first points in Moto2. We'll talk about all that. NHRA was at St. Louis this past weekend. The usual suspects winning their W Series in what might be their last race. Ran at Singapore this past weekend. Rally New Zealand sees a brand new world champion in the World Rally Championship, the youngest ever in the history of the series. Deep shot over, unbelievable. Oh my goodness. That is just mediocre. The Bathurst 1000, the great race. They're gonna be running that for, I don't know how many time that is. Another great throw. He could have thrown that better, and then he wouldn't have been falling over like a dope. Fucking Garoppolo. And so we'll preview that. World Superbikes at Portugal. Got some sound from Garrett Gerloff, in regards to why he's moved on from Yamaha after 11 years oh my God, that was a pick six. That literally was a pick six. And then we'll get into the British Touring Car finale, might as well. 4 drivers battling for the title, 3 rounds. They'll run, or 3 races in the round itself, as they've been doing for many years. 4 drivers in contention for the championship at Silverstone, or actually Brands, I think it's Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. We'll do our NFL reviews for our teams. I'm giving you my review live. Because he overthrew him, of course. That's lovely. Underthrows one ball, almost gets picked off the second ball, and then throws it 150 miles an hour over Juwan Jennings' head on third down. Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, come on, man. Oh, you fucking cocksucker. Speaking of cocksuckers, Max Verstappen's going to probably win the world championship this weekend at the Japanese Grand Prix, so we'll talk about that. It will be eligible, which would be hilarious if he wasn't. That's probably what should happen to them for last year and this year, but it won't. Cup and Xfinity at the Roval, and we'll make our previews and picks along with who advances for Cup and Xfinity into the round of 8, and then Josh's Sim segment, and then we'll close the deal. Since I've been rambling on talking about my 49ers, Josh, I'll allow you to open the segment here for the Yellowwood 500, which saw William Clyde Elliott II get his 5th win of the 2022 season, advance to the round of 8 for the 6th consecutive year, which for people that may want to question his talent, 6 years in a row making the round of 8, it doesn't happen by accident. I mean, he is in the flagship car for Hendrick Motorsports. He is the golden boy, the chosen one, et cetera, et cetera. But Chase Elliott has proven, especially over the last 3 years, I think, 3-4 years, that he has become an elite driver. I don't know if we really thought he was going to get to that level, but he has become that guy. And I think losing to Kyle Larson, watching Kyle Larson basically open a can on everybody, including all of his teammates last year, pissed him off and Alan Gustafson off. And this car has kind of become a equalizer, and it's given him a leg up. It's almost like they made the car for him. I mean, who knows, they might have, but 5 wins this year, nobody's really close to that. And getting a win here at Talladega, a track where his father has had such great success, set the all-time record for speed in NASCAR. He didn't lead the most laps, but he led when it counted, won one stage, finished third in the other, so maximizing his points, nearly got 2 points away from a maximum point haul, and beats one of his BFFs, Ryan Blaney, Michael McDowell, Ross Chastain, Denny Hamlin, your top 5, 4 playoff drivers in the top 5. Eric Jones, who was good at Talladega yet again, led 23 laps this time. Chastain led the most laps in this race for 36. He won in April, beating Eric Jones. Todd Gilliland getting a top 10 finish, so good job by him. Daniel Suarez, Austin Cindric, and Chase Briscoe. So and as I mentioned earlier, Austin Cindric and Chase Briscoe are now tied for the last playoff spot going into the Roval. Credit to Landon Castle for leading a lap, finishing 11th in this race. So good on him. Eric Almirola tied for most laps led with Chastain actually with 36. So there was that. There wasn't a whole lot of carnage. Only 4 cars that had issues. Hemrick, of course, late had the car shut off, which was why they called that last yellow. 3 cars in accidents. There was the incident which saw Corey LaJoie blow a tire, and he ended up falling out of the race because of that. Ty Gibbs had an issue and fell out of the race along with Harrison Burton early 23 laps into the race, which involved, what is this, a bunch of the Penske, three of the Penske cars, and then
all of Penske, yeah.
Because they don't, they show 2, 21, and 22, but I guess the 12 probably would have been involved if all of them were there. The 31, 47, 48, and 62. Of course, the 48 being driven by Noah Gagson in relief of Alex Bowman, who was out with concussion symptoms. But credit to Clyde, another victory. Gives himself a leg up in regards to the round of 8. If he can get another victory, get another 5 playoff points. The playoffs have not started out well for him. He kind of got lucky in a lot of ways. The first 2 races were not very good in the first round. He kind of scraped through in the cutoff race at Bristol. Then you have the race last week to start the round of 12. Wasn't very good for him either, and he still is in a position to kind of compete, and now he's won. So he's probably brought that momentum right back where he needs it, kind of taken a little he's gained himself, 16 points over Joey Logano right now. He's only 2 points ahead of Ryan Blaney, but good on Clyde there to put himself in that position, heading into a racetrack, which he's one of his most successful racetracks, which is the Roval.
Yeah, I mean, with Chase Elliott, he made a lot of moves in, during the race, especially the last restart, started on the inside line, but then found a gap and then was able to jump in front of Eric Jones. And, he was able to stay locked up with him, and he was basically dueling for first place with Ryan Blaney, and then he was able to get out in front and win the race there. So yeah, what an aggressive move to win the race, but it was also probably the right move. Chase took the run that he had there at the end and was able to pull out the win. And then he also led in stage 2, winning stage 2. So he definitely ran a bunch up front. He's pushing Kyle Larson to the lead a couple of times, and proved that he had a fast race car at Talladega. But the finish was very interesting in itself because Ryan Blaney won the first stage by waiting to the last second and then pulling to the outside and barely getting Denny Hamlin at the line to win stage 1, and they almost pulled off the win in the same fashion, getting a push from Michael McDowell, and then swerving to the outside, off of the tri-oval, but just didn't have enough time, didn't have enough momentum to get up alongside Chase Elliott to, nose out, inch out in front of him. So Chase Elliott comes out with the win. Most competitive race this year in the Cup Series, from lead changes, 57 lead changes. And, it was a pretty surprising race, like we talked about, in terms of, cautions, not a whole lot of cautions overall. You had the first big wreck early on, and then Corey LaJoie. But then after that, the only caution that they had was the stage yellows, and then Daniel Hemrick stopping on pit road at the very end of the race. So, fairly clean, maybe in response to the issues with the crash situation with the next gen car. Of course, Kurt Busch and now Alex Bowman both out right now with concussions, and me, being able to recover from concussions. So, maybe they were trying to, not be as aggressive, but then at the same time, there was a lot of moves that were made in that race that were very aggressive. You saw drivers jumping out of line, trying to take the lead, drivers, bump drafting each other and making some very aggressive pushes where you could see the car getting pushed, getting sideways at, multiple points during the time that they were getting pushed. So even though it was clean, you still saw a lot of that same aggressiveness that we've gotten used to here at Talladega, but they were able to keep it within a restraint, I guess, and it actually led to some pretty good racing. And this is probably one of the cleaner races that we've had at Talladega since maybe the early 2000s. Go back to 2001, the race that Bobby Hamilton won that went caution free. 2002, EA Sports 500, went caution free there. This one wasn't caution free, but very similar in the fact that they were able to race for very long periods of time throughout the race and throughout several green flag pit stops where the field was able to get broken up, but then they got back together and they were able to swap the lead, make passes throughout the Cup race. So from that note, definitely very entertaining. And for once they were able to not crash at the end, which I think is definitely an improvement over the last couple of Talladega races that we've seen. The rest of the field in the chase or in the playoffs, William Byron needed to probably win this race, or at least score stage points. He was up front for a couple of times, but ended up getting shuffled toward the back, not getting any stage points at all. So missed opportunity there. Christopher Bell spun on the pit road and then took the pit road penalty and lost a couple laps, but he was able to get his lap back, but still didn't get the points he needed. Now he's also on the outside looking in, for round 2 here. So the points are pretty tight right now for the last couple of spots. Of course, like you said earlier, Chase Briscoe, Austin Cindric, both on the outside. They're tied, so it's going to be pretty tough to get into this next round here. Kyle Larson didn't have the race that he needed, even though he led a couple of times during the race and was definitely up front with Chase Elliott when Elliott was pushing him. Logano involved in that early accident, but was able to get up to the front in stage 1 or at the end of stage 1. So he had an opportunity as well. He's a good restrictor plate racer to be up front for the win, but ended up finishing in 27th place. So the last of the playoff drivers. So not the race that Joey Logano needed, and not in a completely vulnerable situation, but definitely after stage 1, he was looking like the best driver on points. So a bit of a swing there, going from top 10 contending car to being outside, or not outside the playoffs, but on less secure footing. So it makes the Roval that much more important as we get to next weekend, and for all of these playoff drivers outside of Chase Elliott to go and win the race or get whatever points they can. So this race, a lot of entertainment, a lot of fun, and then of course, first time we've had a playoff driver win in the playoffs so far that is playoff eligible. and in the drivers' championship at least. And from that standpoint, finally it had to happen. We've had non-playoff contenders or non-playoff drivers go out and win races. So so far, so this is probably the deepest that we've seen. Playoff contending driver finally win. So now it finally happened. Now you go into next week of the Roval where things continue to be crazy, and we'll see what happens at that race. But yeah, very enjoyable race, and of course got to watch it with our friend and frequent contributor Joe Pissarro. And his dad was there as well. They're on vacation in Florida, at Disney World. So got a chance to meet up with him in person. So very nice to be able to go do that, and be able to talk throughout the race and have our reactions and give opinions and everything of all the things that happened in the race. And there was definitely a lot of times where me and him were both reacting to the moves that the drivers were making throughout that race. And definitely there was a lot of times where we were both very nervous that a wreck was going to happen or somebody was going to do something stupid, but able to get together with him. So glad we were able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting race for sure. I'm glad you and Joe were able to meet up. It looks like Joe's going to be out in the southeast here for this week, going to the Roval. We'll see if we can get him on next week to talk about the round of 8 and all of his exploits out there, taking vacation, going out to Disney and all that. And he just got wrapped up there by Aaron Donald. That was a good tackle there. It's third down. They were driving a little bit after the Rams went and kicked a field goal. But, I mean, for the Cup Series and for after this weekend's race, I mean, you see Elliott doing what he did, but there were a lot of drivers that had a chance. There were non-playoff drivers that were up there. McDowell continues to have a career year. Eric Jones is putting himself in a great place to build momentum towards 2022 or 23. That was a high ball. That was a medicine ball. He got away with it, but Debo caught it. He might take it to the house. Take it. Oh, man. Oh, he missed a tackle. Yeah, that's going to the house. Debo Samuel. Yes, sir. Let's go.
Oh, yeah, I need that. I need this.
That was a medicine. That was a hospital. I called it a medicine ball. That was a hospital ball, and Debo bailed him out on it. And then he just did the rest because he is Debo Samuel. Okay, we'll take that. 13-6, 57-yard tutty for Debo Samuel. Actually caught it a receiving touchdown, so not a running touchdown like it seems like they always want him to do. If they throw, I mean, GK is going to end up having pancake blocks or something today. I need to make pancake blocks a stat in fantasy football next year. I don't know how they track them, but I think that would be the only way he would score points since he never gets the ball. But that's what you have to do. Going through the points here, as I mentioned, Elliott locked in into the next round. Other than that, I mean, Ryan Blaney is -2 behind him. Chastain is -6. So essentially they're right, and you swap it over. +32, +28 above the cut line. I would assume they're pretty good without having a nightmare scenario. Oh, there he is. There's the GOAT. Greatest of all time right there. I think he could still play wide receiver. Oh, look at him. He's sipping. He's sipping some, he ain't sipping gin and juice. He's sipping like bourbon or something. Denny Hamlin is in 4th, +21. Joey Logano and Larson, I mean, you mentioned him, Josh, that Logano had a better car and a better deal than what it worked out to be. I picked him. I was looking at him as being a favorite. I picked him in fantasy and worked out well. Larson's +18. So essentially those guys, I would think, with a all right result should make it in. That leaves essentially 2 spots, which Daniel Suarez is +12. Then Cindric and Briscoe, who are tied, and then William Byron, who's -11. There's 23 points between 7th and 10th. Christopher Bell, who had an amazing round of 16 is now in a position where essentially he has to win. Alex Bowman, which we're going to get into here in a minute, has to win. Briscoe and Cindric, the good friends, the Ford development drivers, two of the guys, pick the fucking ball off. They're tied. Actually, in terms, and it's funny, the way the owners' points work, because Ryan Blaney's not involved in the owner points championship, both of them are in the round of 8 as of now, and it's a 11-point gap between them and William Byron. You then add the 20 or the 45 car of Bubba Wallace is, 23 or is it 34, 24 points back. 24 points back in 10th, and then the 20 and the 48. So that's the only difference there. And as they have it arranged because of the playoff points, Briscoe is ahead of Cindric in the owner's points, which is interesting. So something to look at there as we get into this weekend's race. But the other piece I wanted to mention, I mean, we talked about it. It caused a bunch of moving parts. A lot of moving parts happened there with Alex Bowman getting knocked out of the race this weekend at Talladega due to the accident he had at Texas, Josh. And it's the latest example of what's wrong with the Gen 7 car. They're supposedly doing tests in Ohio to look at crash testing to make a new rear bumper or rear section of the car, a more crushable section of the back end of the car, since basically the chassis is so stiff. They have essentially went backwards in technology, which both Denny Hamlin and Denny Hamlin is more outspoken, and then basically was told by Steve Phelps to go and tone it down. And then Clyde was outspoken about it as well. And it's not a good look for them when they've lost 2 playoff drivers this year, one that's generally a younger driver and one that's a veteran driver, due to this car because of how it's made and the accidents that don't look that bad per se, but are way worse in based on how the hits are being taken and how energy is being dissipated through this car. I mean, it meant that Gregson drove the 48. It meant that he was out of the 62. So then his teammate in Xfinity, Justin Allgaier, drove the 62 car. So those were 2 changes there. I mean, Allgaier's time in the Cup Series was never pretty, and this was no better. This weekend, Gregson kind of just drove and was there. He didn't throw up in the seat, so I'm sure that Alex Bowman will be happy about that. But I mean, this is something we talked about ad nauseum in the last episode, Josh, and it's a real problem. And I don't trust that they know what they're doing to fix it. I don't know if they have the right people in place to fix it, but something has to happen. It's not going to happen by the end of this year, of course. There's only 5 races to go in the season, but there better be a solution, and there better be a solution really quick, because they're going to be running Daytona next February at 190 miles an hour. And if they're hitting fences and stuff at the rate that they were doing the last time they went to Daytona, it could be a real problem.
Yeah, it's definitely a real problem right now. And, on one hand, like I was telling this to Joe on Sunday, on one hand, you have crashes happening, and it's not like, people are like bones are being broken, or, you're seeing lethal injuries happen, from, like a Dale Earnhardt type of crash, or, anything like that. But at the same time, what looks like normal crashes that we've had, throughout NASCAR history, now those look, and Matthew Stafford gets sacked, so good job there. But now we have normal crashes look crashed a lot harder, and now drivers are getting concussion as a result. And so that's pretty much the concern there. And it seems like the impacts that have caused the most concern is the rear impact. And, you saw it at Pocono back in, the end of July, Kurt Busch impacting the right rear quarter panel. Then you saw it at, Texas now with Alex Bowman having kind of the same impact. Not quite as much damage, but, the same impact as, type of impact as Kurt Busch. So, and now with a concussion. So, it's interesting what they'll do. It seems like maybe the answer is a softer rear clip or more collapsible rear clip or something like that. But we'll have to find out what the solution is. And, hopefully this time they'll do more extensive testing and see what the drivers are saying. Like I said, on one hand, at least now we're seeing people like, suddenly become glass and, become shattered or whatever, bones broken, whatever. But from these impacts, which, on camera, like some of them have looked pretty hard. Bubba Wallace, Talladega, and Atlanta this year both said those were the two hardest impacts of his career, both harder than his Pocono crash 2018. Logano said his crash, Coca-Cola 600 this year, was probably the hardest crash in his life. And none of them looked that bad. Well, the Bubba ones maybe, but they looked too hard. But given the fact that the chassis is stiff, and particularly stiff in the rear bumper and in the front clip, definitely makes it look a lot harder and a lot worse than what it should be. Go back to Noah Gragson crashing with his car in the spring in Atlanta, and then admitting on Sirius XM or whatever show that, or no, he was on Door Bumper Clear, and saying that you can go as hard as what you want in Xfinity, where the risks and where the limits are. But in the Cup car, you can only go 90% because that 10% you could end up crashing or something, and then crashing really hard and potentially having an injury like a concussion. So it's very, very fickle situation right now, and something that has to be resolved very soon, or else there's going to be more problems like that in the future. And from that perspective, yes, it is going backwards in terms of drivers suffering potential head injuries or brain traumatic brain injuries, TBIs. So that's the focus there, and hopefully they can come up with something, that can work in the future. But yeah, it's definitely a huge issue right now. So, and they not only mentioned the concussions and all that, but Kevin Harvick also had the same type of impact, right rear into the wall, and he still continued to finish the race. But at the same time, he said on Twitter that he did, I guess what they call red light therapy and some other type of massages or whatever to try to recover from the soreness from that accident. So clearly, even if you don't get a concussion, it seems like you're a lot more sore than what you would normally be after a type of crash like that, like we've seen in the past with the old car and with the Gen 4 and previous cars. So hopefully we can come up with a solution that definitely works for everybody.
Hope so too, because it's not a good look for the series to be going back to where we were back in 2000 with the Gen 4 or whatever you want to, Gen 3/4, when prior to all the safety innovations or whatever, making the Hans or making head and neck restraints a mandatory thing, making oh yeah, that was great ball to nobody in particular. And seeing all those drivers die, it's not something we want to be going back to, even though the people that now run NASCAR these days seem to be in that realm. It's not something they really want, or it's not going to be good with media and social media for that matter. But we'll change it up. We'll try to make it a little more positive here. As mentioned earlier, AJ Allmendinger is going to be going back to the Cup Series. He's going to be trying to go back to the Cup Series as a XFinity Series champion. And another great ball. He just threw it out of bounds. He could have thrown it to somebody and he was wide open. AJ Allmendinger wins his first super speedway race of his career in the Sparks 300, and he beat Sam Mayer. Teammate AJ Allmendinger's teammate Landon Castle finished third. Ryan Sieg, Josh Berry, so 4 playoff drivers in the top 5. Parker Kligerman, who I picked for the Truck Series race, I guess should have picked him for Xfinity. He finished 6th in the Big Machine 48. Then another 3, 4, 5 playoff drivers from 7th through 11th. Keebler, who got spun early, came back to 7th. Hemrick, Buckshot Jones, Gagson, and Herbst. Sheldon Creed, 12th. Trevor Bayne, Austin Hill, Justin Allgaier, all with playoff intentions there. 13th through 15th as I go in. Yeah. So sorry, just got distracted there by Susie Culver. Austin Hill had the best car, but in the end, he won both stages, led 60 laps. He's been really, really, really good on these super speedways, but was not able to pay it off here on Saturday afternoon. Something he might rue later, especially in the round of 8. Even though right now his point situation isn't too bad. Josh, essentially there was, after that, I mean, once the playoff guys, the vast majority of playoff guys all had something to show for their day. I mean, outside of course, Jeremy Clements, but even the guys that were kind of close to making the playoffs were up there. So it really wasn't that crazy of an event. There was only 3 caution flags, but 2 of them were for stages. So it was a very clean race, similar to the Cup race. Long green flag running, of course, and the AJ Allmendinger getting a win, adding to the Kaulig trophy hunting collection that they've done at Talladega and Daytona over the years. And he gets a double bonus because now he's going to go back to the Cup Series too. Now, can he go and somehow or another slay Junior Motorsports, slay Joe Gibbs Racing, and possibly get that Xfinity title? That's something that we have to see. But AJ Allmendinger now has put himself in a place where he might be able to.
Yeah, and, credit to Allmendinger. He stayed in line on the last lap. He had the push from his teammate Landon Castle, and very similar move to what Ryan Blaney did in the Cup Series on Sunday in Stage 1. And at the end of there, he took the run from the inside line and closed up on Sam Mayer and was able to cut to the right and in the tri-oval and then pass barely just inch in front of Sam Mayer there at the finish line to get that win. So first win super speedways for AJ Allmendinger. Like you said, he has had opportunities over the years in Xfinity to take the win, but ended up getting crashed out, or other drivers taking away the win from him in those instances, but not here. Now finally he has a win at the Xfinity races with this car in this series. So now, of course, use leverage for him in the playoffs, and he's locked himself into the next round. He can free roll at the Roval, and we know he's really good there. So he just won this race, and of course could be an opportunity for him to be able to go out and potentially win the Roval, which would be huge for him, and also be huge for his for his team, for Kaulig, give them more confidence that they can build a championship winning race car and go out and win the championship. So we'll see there. But yeah, this race had less cautions on track incidents with than even the Cup Series. There was the spin by Ty Gibbs in beginning of the race, but other than that, it was just the stage wins, stage cautions for the race. But these drivers, they were able to stay together, not crash, and the fact Xfinity, there's not as much experience in everything. With the younger drivers in the field, there's not a whole lot of Cup stars outside of Landon Castle, AJ Allmendinger, Trevor Bayne. He's been in Cup before, but not a whole lot of experience like there was in the past here at Talladega. And the fact that all these Xfinity drivers were able to go as long as what they could without crashing at the end and wadding all the cars up and turning it into a junkyard parking lot. Very impressive of them to be able to do that. And then the playoff drivers themselves, Ryan Sieg was on the outside line on the last lap, but ends up finishing 4th, and may work out in his favor because he's got a bit of a points cushion to Daniel Hemrick, who's about 6 points behind him in the championship. So for that final spot. So we'll see what happens there as we go to next week in the Roval, and how they decide to approach that race. But Austin Hill also was up there, very competitive, very fast, led 60 laps, the most laps in this race, but came up short and ended up finishing in 14th. So even if you're one of the best restrictor plate racers in the business, there's still chances that you can get shuffled out of the draft, or other drivers in the you're racing against end up teaming up with each other and shuffle you out, and then you fall to the back, and it's very hard to be able to work back up to the front. So ended up only finishing in 14th. So picked him to win, but I guess it's better than crashing out. Finishing the race is better than crashing out. So we'll see what happens as we go throughout the rest of the playoffs, how this all begins to shake out, and what these drivers are looking like. Especially after the Roval and how the standings change. But race ran fairly smoothly, smoother than the Cup race, but it was still a good finish to be had. And congrats to AJ Allmendinger for finally getting a first win on the Super Speedway in NASCAR after so many years where they came close and had an opportunity to win but came out short. So they are finally able to do it, and now he can go focus on the Roval and potentially win there.
That's something that we'll see now that he's free rolling. Something that Noah Gragson isn't generally good at is road courses. This is probably the last race he has to fade prior to the final four race. Now, final four races, he gets to go home next week at Vegas, and then we'll talk about that on episode 138. Then you're going to have, there you go. Okay, right on the warning track. Okay, so you had, and then what is it? You have Homestead and you have Martinsville before Phoenix. So two 1.5 mile racetracks. You have a short track, and then you have Phoenix, which is in basically a hybrid short track there to finish the season. But AJ Allmendinger 18 points behind in regards to the playoff point standings. He's trying to cut that off and give himself a chance going into the round of 8. I don't think he really has to worry about his situation as much. I think he just wants to give himself more cushion. Ty Gibbs and Allgaier, those are the ones that are in good position in regards to points, because if they can get through that round and get to Phoenix, it'll just zero out. Austin Hill, it was a lost opportunity for him, or Josh Berry. Those are two guys that probably wanted to be able to get a victory. Austin Hill got those stage wins, but, it didn't really matter in the grand scheme because he didn't get the W. It was his second and third stage wins of the year. So he needed the race win to get himself ahead of Josh Berry in regards to playoff points. But something to see. I think as it stands right now, we're talking about the driver points. The top 6 are basically safe. The real battle starts with Sam Mayer, who is only 6 points ahead of Ryan Sieg. And then Ryan Sieg is on the cutoff. He's 6 points ahead of Daniel Hemrick and 10 points ahead of Riley Herbst and Bruckshot Jones. And so that's where the interesting battle lies in regards to the points. They're going to have a battle there at the Roval. In regards to the owner point standings, the 11 Kaulig car is on the cutoff, but they're tied with the 18 from Joe Gibbs, which will have James Davison behind the wheel this weekend. Then you have the 98 and the 19 3 points back. So you have 4 cars within 3 points for one spot. The 8, 7, and 1 from Junior Motorsports are all in there basically pretty good, but there's a little bit more of a sweat for Sam Mayer, but he does like the Roval. Got close to his first win on Saturday. He is good at road racing, so it'll be something to see what he can do there. Mayer, you got those 5 drivers, Mayer, Sieg, Hemrick, Herbst, Jones. They have to play between two minds in regards to whether they go for stage points or not. I'm assuming they're all going to go for stage points. They're not going to be in contention for the win. But basically Allmendinger, Gregson, and Gibbs are going to go for the win, and that'll make it interesting. It's a pretty deep field, honestly. 41 cars at the moment for 38 spots. A lot of talent, a lot of interesting names. We'll get into that later. Truck Series at Talladega was earlier, the first part of a Saturday doubleheader, along with the Cup qualifying. So the Truck Series, Chevy Silverado 250 saw Matt DiBenedetto go and do a Regan Smith, advance his position under the yellow line late after a wreck, which saw Corey Heim wreck coming through the tri-oval. Depending on who you are and when the situation is, that's called a penalty. But in the case of what happened with Matt DiBenedetto, that counted as not. He was forced by defending series champion Ben Rhodes, and he goes and sends Ben Rhodes, and Ben Rhodes' truck is destroyed in the process. But he ends up winning a Truck Series race over Bret Holmes, who's a former ARCA Series champion. Crossed the line first. If they had actually just let it run, crossed the line first, he would have won his first career race. It would have been a big deal for him, an Alabama boy, winning at Talladega. But instead, NASCAR has to be NASCAR and, manipulate a finish. Matt DiBenedetto gets the victory over Ben Rhodes, Bret Holmes, Ryan Preece, Christian Eckes. Josh, you picked Ryan Preece, of course. He had a good opportunity there late in the race. He's known for his ability on super speedways, especially in the Cup Series. Haley Deegan gets a career best finish. Chase Purdy, who was your wild card pick, so good picks by you, man. Colby Howard, 8th. My pick to win, Parker Kligerman, finished 9th. So he got 2 top 10 finishes this on Saturday. Tyler Ankrum was 10th. He started that wreck there that ended the race. Caden Honeycutt for the 30 team finished 11th. Clay Greenfield 12th. There wasn't a lot of carnage. I mean, there were 9 cautions. The caution, of course, with Jordan Anderson, his truck being on fire was really scary. Then there was an accident with Doza and the 42 and the 45. So that the 42, of course, one of many cautions the 42 was involved with. On Saturday, Lawless his teammates Dean Thompson and Lawless Allen were part of that same accident. So got knocked out there. Jennifer Ho Cobb actually made a race and had mechanical issues. And then there was a wreck for Tanner Gray and Austin Wade himself. And that also included the 13 of Johnny Sauter. I believe that is a 13, right? Yeah, I'm trying to look. Yeah, Johnny Sauter, and 23 of Enfinger, a playoff driver who's now in trouble going to Homestead, and the 30, but Honeycutt was able to recover. Corey Heim got wrecked there late. John Hunter Nemechek won one stage, finished second in the other, led 20 laps. Second most laps led behind Christian Eckes. But as it stands, there's a lot to look at going to Homestead, which is going to be in over 2 weeks. It'll be 2.5 weeks between now and Homestead for their cutoff before they wait to go to Phoenix. But DiBenedetto gets a victory. The points going into that last race before they lock into the round of 4 is very close for the Truck Series. Majeski is the only one who's guaranteed. Chandler Smith has a 30-point lead over the cutoff. Zane Smith has an 18-point lead over the cutoff. And then from there, Ben Rhodes is +3 over Friesen and Eckes, +8 over John Hunter Nemechek. And he was saying he was looking forward to going to Homestead. It's one of his favorite racetracks. Grant Enfinger needs a victory, essentially. So I guess the truck series became really interesting on Saturday after that Talladega race. But I think the real interesting part is what this championship's going to look like. We're going to have a lot to talk about in a couple weeks' time going to Homestead.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, especially with John Hunter Nemechek, somebody we thought might be in that top four going into Phoenix, and yet he's looking like right now on the outside, looking but not by much, only by 2 points right now, but still on the outside, looking in. And go back to the race on Saturday. He finished it towards the back of the field, and you look at how his pit stops came out on Saturday. He pitted by himself in the middle of the race, and I think they said that was a mistake, and that he was supposed to, I guess all the Toyotas were supposed to pit together or something like that on Saturday, but they made a mistake, and he ended up peeling off as the only one to pit on pit road, and so having no drafting help and getting overlapped by the leaders as they were continuing to go on their strategy until they had to pit. So bit unusual by seeing a single car going to pit in any series, truck, cup, or Xfinity on Talladega. So this race was a little bit more wilder than the Cup Series or Xfinity race, but still more volatility here with playoff drivers having some involvement in crashes and in the finish. So we'll see what happens going forward. Going to where they're, I think, at Homestead where they're going to race. So this is going to be interesting. And John Hunter Nemechek, he's I feel like he's probably had good success in the Truck Series at Homestead, so that might be a track for him to possibly get back into the playoffs. Other drivers like Chandler Smith, like Zane Smith, Ben Rhodes, even they may do well at Homestead. So we'll have to see. But I think talking about the finish though of that race, Bret Holmes went to the outside to try to go for the win. Ben Rhodes went down to went up the block and then tried to come back down and collected or made contact with DiBenedetto before DiBenedetto was below the start finish line, and then he goes below the yellow line kind of as a result of that contact, and then they come back up the racetrack and Rhodes spins out and they all crash behind him. I think in my opinion though it takes away from the integrity of the start finish line because Bret Holmes was the first guy across the line, but he didn't win, and they went back to the last scoring loop. So it's not really like DiBenedetto like intentionally went below the yellow line or anything. He kind of got forced down there, and kind of literally because he made contact with Ben Rhodes. So that was an interesting finish. Especially with everybody crashing, but would like to see somehow a situation, if possible, where the drivers, if they get in a crash and it happens like on the tri-oval of the last lap at Talladega or even Daytona or any other race where this might occur at, because it could easily occur anywhere else, where they somehow the driver who crosses the line first at the end of the race is able to keep the victory or is counted as the race victor, because by definition that's the rule of a race. That's first guy across the line usually should be the winner, unless I guess this is one of those cases where unless otherwise, but don't really like to have to see races decided up in the booth like that. I'd rather like to see them settled on this on the racetrack. So overall the race pretty wild, but points are going to be at a premium, I think, going into Homestead. So this field of four going into Homestead still not quite set up, and it's going to be very tight, between John Hunter Nemechek, Christian Eckes, and Stuart Friesen probably.
Yeah, it's something we're going to talk about. I mean, it's only a 200-mile race at Homestead, but it's a rough racetrack. It'll be in the middle of the day, first race of the day, so it'll be at 1 o'clock, 1:15 in the afternoon. God, it doesn't matter. That guy wannabe Cooper Cup gets open too. I mean, it's just something where I think the track being slick you're going to want tires at any point when you get a chance. Tires are going to be at a premium with the limited sets of tires they get. Something to look at. But it's going to be an interesting race. I think it's a great place to have a cutoff. Honestly, it's a great place to have a finale because they had it for years and it worked fine. So we'll see what happens with that at Homestead. For the Truck Series, here in a few weeks' time, we'll hopefully have updates on Jordan Anderson. I'm trying to see, Jordan Anderson, he's going to have his 2 cars. He's going to run a second car in the Xfinity Series. Not he won't be, but Austin Wayne Self is going to fail to qualify. And then you're going to have Cup Series, of course, as well at the Roval. Formula One, of course, Singapore Grand Prix, first time since 2019. Sebastian Vettel, last race, 5-time winner there, was able to score points in his final race at Singapore. In the end, we both picked Max Verstappen, but Max Verstappen fucked up in qualifying along with his team. And in part, that basically ended his weekend because the guy who runs Formula One doesn't believe Formula One cars should run in the rain. So took away a whole aspect of the race where they could have run on full wet tires, and then there would have been strat in regards to when to go into intermediates. And that might have added a little bit more intrigue and a little bit more flavor to the race itself. Delayed the race an hour, which was stupid and unnecessary. And in the end, Sergio Perez gets a better start over Charles Leclerc, who qualified on pole and basically led most of the race. I don't think he led the entire race, but he led most of the race. Over Charles Leclerc, 2.59 or seconds after the penalty that he received because he had an infraction under the safety car, but they didn't do anything really about it because they had to ask him about it after the race instead of putting a 10-second penalty on him, make him actually have to make a 10-second gap, which is what they should have done. Sergio Perez gets his first win, I think, since Monaco back at the end of May. Leclerc, Sainz, his car was an absolute, he was slow as fuck the whole entire day, held up Lewis Hamilton after bumping him off the track at the start. McLaren gets a double top 5 finish, Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo from 16th to 5th. Aston Martin gets double point score with Stroll in 6th and Vettel in 8th. Verstappen finished 7th after starting 8th, but it was quite an adventure for him to get back there. Lewis Hamilton finished 9th after starting 3rd, crashing at one point, then trying to hold off people after that, and was basically nowhere. Pierre Gasly rounds out the points. There were only 14 finishers because both Alpines fell out with engine issues. Latifi ran into Zhou Guanyu and had damage. Alex Albon had wing damage and was driving around with it and then had another incident, and that secondary incident was what knocked him out of the race after almost dying a couple weeks ago after an appendectomy. And then Yuki Tsunoda crashed. George Russell had a nightmare weekend and had his first race finish outside of the top 5 this year. So Ferrari had a big weekend and was able to go and gain a lot of points in the constructors. But Checo Perez, at least for now, is a winner at Singapore. He is a winner at the Singapore Grand Prix, but kind of questionable in the way they handled that infraction. But he had probably the best drive of his career either way. We talked about it on the preview show for the Grid Talk podcast for the Japanese Grand Prix, which should be up where you can hear podcasts, and how good of a drive Checo had. Best drive he's had in a while. But there was a lot more controversy behind that, which we'll get into in a little bit, about Red Bull and even Aston Martin.
Yeah, and this race was from the Red Bull perspective, they made a mistake with Verstappen and the lack of fuel on his last lap to get a pole, and so he wasn't able to set a good time. Even though he had pace, just wasn't able to set a good time, and that put him in the back. So he started at a disadvantage and never able to recover from that, and ended up having to battle against Lewis Hamilton of all people, 2021 rival, trying to get a good finish in the Singapore Grand Prix, and then on the other hand, teammate going out and winning, even if it was in controversial fashion in some way, still able to go out and pull out the win. So a bit of a shock there, if you're like us trying to just pick Max Verstappen no matter what. This time it just didn't work out. So hey, it's there every now and then. Those picks aren't going to work out, but more often than not, it seems like we're going to be right here, and probably going to be right here next weekend as they go to the Japanese Grand Prix in Suzuka. So we'll see if that happens or not. But certainly it looks like Verstappen is very likely to win the championship as each week continues to pass by every passing week. So we'll see. But other things of note that were in that weekend, Fernando Alonso, much noise made about his 350th start in Formula One, but ended up failing to finish the race and DNF out of the race. So unfortunate for him. Still a milestone event. Being able to run 350 races in Formula One there. You talked about the McLaren team, of course, Ricciardo on his way out, Norris still the number one guy. They finally had a good weekend for both of their cars, and they both come out with a double top five. So good finish for that team. And we'll see what happens there. But Verstappen still okay. I'm seeing the game here, but looks like the 49ers, they made a good play to force third and goal against A-Rod.
I already saw the play, and they were doing the replay again where Shavarius Ward, Mooney Ward went and made that play there. So need to get a stop here to hold them to a field goal.
Hold them to a field goal. We'll see here. Third and goal here. Good defense for Ward there. Stafford drops back to pass and almost interception. I
was on mute, or else I'd have had a scream right there because I was a pick for.
Somehow you're ahead of me, even though I'm watching on cable. Maybe this is satellite. I don't know.
Whatever. It's probably satellite. The digital oh God. Oh man, should have made that pick. All right.
Yeah, but anyways, though, George Russell didn't have a good race overall. Finishing 2 laps down. Schumacher 1 lap down. So, and then of course, the rain delays. So, bit of a surprising weekend here in Formula One. But we continue on, and we'll go next week and see if this is the week that Verstappen finally wins the championship, where he could win it, and we can stop focusing on Max Verstappen worrying about Max Verstappen and win the championship, and then look at other things. And then, on one end, Sergio Perez, of course, winning the race, but on the other end, Charles Leclerc, I guess he had an opportunity to try to maybe overtake or, pass Sergio Perez, but then I guess he said he was afraid, to risk losing second place by trying a difficult move in, the wet conditions, but, he was on pole position, but trying to, capture the lead back from Sergio Perez, and maybe had better pressure, but made mistakes and then just wasn't able to get up to pass Sergio Perez there. So, another opportunity for Ferrari this weekend. And, if it's not the team, then the driver somehow makes a mistake or is unable to pull it off, to get the win. So they'll continue to have issues there trying to close and trying to win races. But again, like we said, we'll continue on to Suzuka, and we'll make our picks later on here in the show.
And Max Verstappen has to outscore, Leclerc by 4 points. He needs to get a 108-point gap after this race. As long as he has an 108-point lead over anybody else behind him, this world championship is over. He would theoretically become a two-time world champion and theoretically would become a legitimate world champion. But their rumors came out and news came out about cost cap breaches for Red Bull and Aston Martin. Karen Horner's come out and basically deny. Seems like the way that segment of politics does things too when they do fucked up things. In regards to them doing that, it might have been it would have helped them in 21, it would have helped them this year, and in turn it would have helped them in 23. So, I mean, I like the notion of them losing, like they threw Michael Schumacher out when he intentionally ran into Jacques Villeneuve in 97 at Jerez. They're not going to retroactively throw him out of last year's championship. So he's going to end up getting that championship. At this point, if you go and breach the cost cap, that's a fumble, and that I think the Niners somehow or another got it back. I hope they did. That was a big hit on Ray McLeod. I kind of knew that had a bad look, like he was going to, He's not exactly the greatest player ever. That's why he's been on multiple teams. But fact is, they should go and throw the book. If the FIA wasn't a organization that was just as much like a lobbying firm, they would throw the book at Red Bull, and they would throw them out of the drivers and the constructors world championship right now. And then good shit, Juice. Let's go. Good hit. And then they would go and throw them out, open up this world championship, which would actually be interesting because Leclerc right now is actually only 2 points out of Sergio Perez in the championship. But if you threw Verstappen and Perez out, Ferrari would be in a great place to win both championships, which would be huge for them. Lewis Hamilton's having the worst year he's had in a long, long time, but he'd move up a little bit. It would be Leclerc, Russell, Sainz, Hamilton, Norris would be the top 5 in points. That would be pretty interesting. They won't do that, of course. They'll just give him a slap on the wrist. But I think the better penalty would be they'd have to run like 100 pounds of ballast for every million they were over the cost cap. They have to run like 10 pounds of ballast, and they have to run it in specific spots of the car. And then all of a sudden, if you're not going to give them an actual penalty that really hurts them, put ballast on the car. I think that's a penalty because these cars are meant to drive as light and be whatever, everything is on the edge of perfection or whatever. Well, you just go and put a piece of lead in a bad spot, car's going to drive like dog shit. Well, you shouldn't have went and broke the cost cap. There you go. That would be a way to do it. They do success ballast in touring cars. So this is not, it's success ballast because they cheated. And then on top of it, you're putting it in a way to where it's going to screw them over and it's going to deter other people. That would be the way to take care of it. The Niner offense looking like typical Kyle Shanahan because he doesn't want to throw it because he's not confident in Jimmy G to actually run his offense. But whatever. At least it's running, so we'll go with that. The team standings see Red Bull up by, 100, and trying to go and do this math quickly. It's not easy for me at this point. I'm doing Eric the Midget, 137 points. Oh, good job there. Throw the ball to GK and let's get going. Let's really go and make something happen. 137 with 5 races to go. So essentially, if they're able to hold, as long as they're able to have 100, and it's same thing, as long as they're able to have, 43, because it's 26, so it's 44 times 4. So they need to have 176. So it's going to take a couple more rounds for them to lock up the constructors. Ferrari is 66 points ahead of Mercedes. Oh man, hold on to it. He's close. He's at the 1. All right. Go and throw a freaking play action play action fake and throw it to GK. Let's go. I mean, I think you have Debo though, so that would have been
Debo
good for you.
to get a touchdown, which I'm close to this happening. So
yeah, Debo's on the 1. I don't know how many yards he has. He has a reception, so that's like a point. So he got a point there for the reception, couple of yards. They're going to run this ball. They're at least going to run it here on first down. Yep. Oh, yeah, they blew him up. They blew him up. Yeah. He got back to the line of scrimmage. But the big thing was with Alpine's double retirement, they fell behind McLaren in the constructors. They're 4 points behind in constructors now with, 5 rounds to go. But I think that's going to go all the way to the wire. Alfa Romeo has a 15-point lead on Aston Martin, who all of a sudden, after the Singapore Grand Prix, I think they basically scored as many points as they've scored the whole entire year in one spot. As I'm trying to look here, 6, 7, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, 24, 25. So they got like half their points. They got essentially half their points that they had total. They're at 37. They have 12 on Sunday. Snuck past Haas, snuck past AlphaTauri. Soon to be former AlphaTauri driver Pierre Gasly was incensed because they went from possibly being able to gain and being in 7th and fell all the way back to 9th. So that's something we're going to have to look at as we get into the last 5 races of the season in Formula One with this battle between 6th through 9th in the constructors and also 4th and 5th. Because that'll be the battle. Everybody who's going to finish second in the Drivers' Championship, who's going to finish second in constructors. I think Mercedes doesn't have a good enough car to pass Ferrari, McLaren and Alpine. That's going to be something to look at here as we go along. So we went over all that stuff. Nothing major in the silly season. I mean, I guess the one silly season piece that came out today was Alex Palou is going to move to McLaren in some way, shape, and form in 2024. Now, whether that is as a test driver for Formula One, whether that is in some other Formula E, IndyCar, they go and decide to make a 4th IndyCar, nobody knows. But Alex Palou is going to run the year out next year for Ganassi while also dovetailing and driving Formula One cars and testing. He might end up making a couple of appearances here in the Americas to possibly go and run rookie sessions for them in oh shit, that was a catch. Oh, it's GK. Yes, that's exactly what I said. I said go and run that play action. He had an hour and a half to throw that ball. I'm like, he's going to throw a freaking interception. Instead, he threw it to George Kittle. Oh, man. Oh, look at him. Best effing tight end. Oh, no, he's out of bounds. Oh, God. He almost died trying for it, too. Yeah, 1. Yeah, no. They're going to call it back. He didn't get his right foot down. Fucking hell.
Go for it if I'm Shanahan.
You should go for it. It doesn't matter at this point. You're up 14. Yeah, they called it incomplete already. So make him use because Jimmy G waited an hour and a half. He could have thrown it a little further wide and he could have gotten it to him, but he doesn't know how to direct a ball properly. They're going to kick a field goal because he's a fucking conservative bitch. Unbelievable. I mean, I love Robbie Gould and it's a chip shot, but go for the gold. Make them actually have to drive the field. You're up 14-9. Your defense has been mauling them all night. Let them actually go and have to go and drive the length of the field and beat you. If you're really tough, you're not confident in your offense. That's essentially what that speaks to.
Well,
right there.
I mean, they'd still be up by 8 points here, so they'd still have to get a 2-point conversion for the Rams if they got a touchdown. But yeah, if they went up by more than one score, then it definitely changes the complexion of the game. And then Stafford has to go out and pass.
Yeah, it's one touchdown scored in the second half this season. Well, you're looking at the reason why right there. I don't understand how he can be his coaching tree makes coaches that actually go for it and are actually good play callers and they're fearless play callers, and he coaches like he's in 1998. It's amazing to me. He coaches just like his father, but the difference is his father had more foresight than he did, number one. And number two, he was looser with his offense, albeit he did kill RG3, but I mean, that's not really a loss because RG3 is kind of a hack. But the notion that same way he killed Trey Lance, this year, but whatever. It's fucking. I'm gonna go off on a tangent about Kyle Shanahan. We're only halfway through this show essentially. So, Petit Le Mans, Road Atlanta, last race of the DPI era sees Oliver Jarvis, Tom Blomqvist in the Meyer-Shank Racing Acura DPI. They won Rolex 24. They win the Petit Le Mans and win the championship by 4.369 seconds over the Whelen Engineering Cadillac of defending series champions Pippo Durrani, Olivier Pla, and Mike Conway. And then the rest of the field there, I'm trying to see what happened to the 10 car. The 10 car fell out of the race. They're late with 13 minutes to go. Lost the championship yet again, finished second again. They were 13 minutes away from the championship, having a chance at the championship. They finished ninth. They finished ninth in the provisional results. The third place finisher was actually the 48 Ally Cadillac of Mike Rockefeller, Kamui Kobayashi, and Jimmy Johnson, who had an interesting day. They had an interesting day, but finished one lap down, finished third overall. Renger van de Zande, Sebastian Bourdais, Scott Dixon finished fourth in the Cadillac, Ganassi Cadillac. First, the winner in LMP2 is John Ferrano, Louis Delatraz, and Rui Andrade in the Tower Motorsport number 8, which saw them win the LMP2 championship. I have to go and bring that up here. Championship points. I'm not sure about the Endurance Cup. They didn't put the Endurance Cup standings, but yeah, Jarvis and Blomqvist win the championship over the 10 car, the 60 over the 10. The 01 finishes third. The 02 finishes fourth. And Alex Lynn and Earl Bamba will be going to the WEC next year with the new Cadillac LMDH, GTP, whatever you want to call it. Pippo Durrani finishes fifth. Richard Westbrook, who was in the 5 car this year for JDC Miller, destroyed themselves with a Lexus earlier in the race. They finished sixth in points. So there's that. Then in the team's championship, 60, 10, 01, 02, 31, 5, 48. Okay. Then Acura won the constructors. John Ferrano wins the LMP2 drivers title, and I think he ends up winning the Bob Aiken Award as well. So credit to him. I think he said he's going to run Le Mans next year with an LMP2. The second place team by just under a second was the Dragon Speed team of Hendrik Hedman, Juan Pablo Montoya, and Sebastian Montoya. And then just behind them was Seth Thomas, Josh Pearson, and Tristan Nunez in the PR1 Matheson number 11. So credit to them. That was a good battle in regards to the LMPs, LMP 1 and 2. The LMP3 category saw Jared Andretti, Gabby Chavez, and Burdon in the Andretti Autosport number 36 get the victory, 11th overall. Credit to them. 13 laps off of the LMP2 Next, what works out to fourth place in LMP2, and the Acura of Ricky Taylor, Philippe Albuquerque, and Brendan Hartley. So they end up finishing 9 laps down. Below, Grist, Siegel, JR3 Racing number 30, and then Barbosa, Jakobsen, and Pino, Sean Creek Motorsports number 33, finished third. The battle for the championship was between Riley Motorsports and Gar Robinson, and the Core Auto Sports team of John Bennett and Colin Braun. John Bennett and Colin Braun get the championship there. So credit to another championship for Core Auto Sport in the LMP3 category now. So I think that might be at least a third class, maybe fourth class that they've won a championship together. Colin Braun, I remember him running in NASCAR trucks, being a prospect for Roush, went back to road racing, and has had quite a career since then. All the people that were involved in Roush Gong shows, that would be in its own episode, like try to go through all the people that were involved in Roush Gong shows. There should be an episode. We could do an episode for all the people that were in the Red Bull driver development program. So that's stuff we have to do in the winter, Josh. Just brainstorming there. In the GTD category, Acura gets a victory in that category, but with the Gradient Racing Acura NSX, Kiffin Simpson, Bechtel Scheimer, Mario Farnbacher gets the victory. There was a drive time penalty in that situation that took place in GTD Pro category. It's interesting, the top 5 cars were all GTD. The first GTD Pro car finished 6th amongst those cars. So interesting how that works out. The McLaren finished, the Inception McLaren finished 2nd, and then the Turner BMW finished 3rd. The GTD points at the end of I'm going to have to go and scroll through because GTD Pro was already determined both with drivers and teams. The GTD sees Roman DeAngelis get the championship by 23 points over Jan Halen and Ryan Hardwick. They finished 4th in the race on Saturday night. Roman DeAngelis was driving in the number 27 car. He ended up finishing 7th in class, so he had enough of a advantage. He finished a lap down behind those guys, but he was able to make it work. Harder Racing, Aston Martin gets the GTD Drivers Championship, and then in terms of the Teams Championship as well, they're trying to go and get a couple of women drivers for the possibility to run some category next year. I would assume they said GT4, so I would say that would be in the Michelin Pilot Challenge, where Taylor, why am I forgetting her name? Because she actually looked good. She put some heels on. She's now won 2 consecutive championships in the what do you call touring car, the TCI or whatever category. She Taylor Hagler. I'm sure she's never going to come on now because I'm talking about her and the fact she dressed in high heels. But one for the Brian Hurd Autosport Hyundai team, 2 consecutive years they've won the championship with the Hyundai Elantra TCR. There you go, TCR. I just remembered it. So going and scrolling through. Oh, look at that. Yeah. Oh, going and talking about, yeah, there you go. God bless him. He's a lucky guy. Yeah, Katie Mox. I'll look at Katie Mox all day. Yeah, so BMW gets the GTD manufacturer's title over Mercedes and Aston Martin. Next year in the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship is going to be awesome. It's something to look forward to for all fans who love sports car racing. GK gets another catch, and he's getting manhandled, but he got about 4 yards after all that. He gets off on contact. Can only imagine what Claire does to him in bed. MotoGP and Thailand this past weekend. Miguel Oliveira gets a victory over Jack Miller and Pecco Bagnaia. Johan Zarco, Marc Marquez, the top 5. The big story is Fabio Quartararo finished 17th, so he didn't even score a point in this race. Rain affected, big run. Debo getting horse-collared or getting mangled by Bobby Wagner, that freaking mongoloid from the Seattle Seahawks. So they went and did a jet. Yeah, they did it underneath route, and or Floyd. It's Floyd, Leonard Floyd. Yeah, fuck him too. So we're getting a little argy-bargy going on here. A little bit of argy-bargy going on here. Separate it, you fucks. Give them flags. Let's go. Throw a flag. Throw a flag on the goddamn LA Rams. Yeah, Jalen Ramsey. Yeah, look at it. Yeah.
Oh, and I just won my fantasy matchup, so let's go.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So, so Josh now is in the top 5, no problem. Gonna get the win. It's gonna be a lucky, tough loss for Steve, losing by less than a point at the moment. It's a bad run. But is that first down? That was first down. Okay. That wasn't a great call because you knew that he was going to break off that ball. But at the end of the day, I'm looking at my score and I'm like, well, I'm counting how many teams are better than me right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No matter what, I'm 8th. But the only good thing about it is I'm playing Vic, and Vic's team's even worse than mine. So I've won. I'm going to win today, no matter what. It's about whether the Niners win, which is what matters to me more now. I'm still going to get a split, even though I'm going to finish 8th this week in points, which is something. So Fabio Quartararo has a 2-point lead going into the next round of the World Championship over Pecco Bagnaia. Only 20 points on Alex Espargaro. Looking at Espargaro only finished 11th. Bastianini finished 6th, and Jack Miller finished 2nd. He's had a good recent form, Jack Miller, going all the way back to Germany. Only one non-point score. He's been doing really well. He's going to be on that KTM that won this weekend with Miguel Oliveira. So it'll be interesting to see what Jack Miller can do on that bike next year. And you think about Enea Bastianini's 39 points back. It's kind of iffy with 3 rounds to go, but Pecco Bagnaia has an issue. Fabio Quartararo has a huge issue. Pecco Bagnaia, if he can keep his ass on the bike for the next 3 races, he is going to be a world champion. And wouldn't be. He's had some issues this year, but it would be hard earned, considering the defending world champion Fabio Quartararo is really tough. The Ducati team, of course, leading over Aprilia, Red Bull, KTM, Pramac. Yamaha has now slipped to 5th in teams. And then you have constructors. Ducati's won that because there's more Ducatis than any other bike. I mentioned in the Open earlier that Sean Dillon Kelly got his first points of his career in the Moto2 championship. So congrats to him on that, the former 600 Supersport champion here, getting points. The results of the race in Thailand this past weekend, Tony Arbolino, Philippe Sulek, and Aaron Canet get the podium. Jake Dixon and Alonso Lopez round out the top 5. Ayagura finishes 6th, just ahead of Augusto Fernandez. Joe Roberts 8th. Kemneith Kubo Celestino Vietti in 10th, and aforementioned SDK in 11th. Cameron Bobier crashes out first lap of the race by himself. And as I knock over a remote, since I'm nervous, 7 minutes to go, Niners up 8, figuring out a way to go and give this one away as well, since they fucking lost to the Chicago Bears and the Denver Broncos, two of the worst teams in the league. Gustav Fernandez is up by 1 point over Ayagura. That's the championship with, four rounds to go for them. Aaron Canet is in third. Celestino Vietti is in fourth. Arbolino with his win gets up to fifth. Roberts is sixth, tied with Jake Dixon. 29 points behind Arbolino. 34 points behind Celestino Vietti. Is that a turnover? Oh, a pick six. We'll take it. Oh, Hufunga. New age freaking Troy Polamalu with a pick six. Thank God he's because we don't have an offense. We don't really have an offense. Oh, man. All right, so let's see this here. I'm going to get a replay. They were trying to throw the crossers. They were trying to get Cooper Kupp, and he jumped the route. Oh, man, that's sexy. That is sexy. The game's over. All right. This is going to be a great week. I feel better about the world. I should have picked up Hufunga on my team. Fucking Wilson picked him up, but it won't count for anything because he's eighth or whatever the hell he's doing. But oh, man. Okay. All right. Get back on track. Get back on track, Philip. You're supposed to be a podcast professional. Yeah, so we talked about the Moto 2. We're going to go and get into the NHRA at St. Louis this past weekend. A couple of track records were set in regards to 1,000 feet. So that was cool to see the Midwest Nationals there. And then you have nothing to Robert Height, yeah. And Robert Height, he went and did his thing enders because thought they were going to go and show speed and whatever, but that's, I saw it on social media, I guess, whatever. The results of the weekend at Worldwide Technology Raceway, Torrance gets the victory in Top Fuel, the multi-time defending world champion in Top Fuel, beats Josh Hart in a final with a 374 with a 1 at 328 miles an hour, 328.7. Josh Hart was late off the line, was giving up a little bit of ET, was a little faster in speed, but Steve Torrance did work the whole entire day, qualified number 1, and went through that. Robert Height gets the victory over Ron Capps, 391 with a 1, 331.61 miles an hour. So huge run for him, beating Ron Capps, who's been on a little bit of a heater. Had to also beat Matt Hagan in the semifinals. Force got knocked off by Capps, so interesting there. Eric Enders on to likely another Pro Stock Championship, knocks off one of the KB drivers in Kyle Koretsky, knocks off her teammate in the second round, and Troy Coughlin Jr. Dallas Glenn, the other KB car, goes in red lights in the final, trying to go and get her 653 with a 5, 210.28 miles an hour for Enders. For a whore insurrectionist, she's going to get another Pro Stock title. I'll let her do whatever she wants with that. She can go and knob gobble all those people that are in the Oath Keepers, that championship. Matt Smith with another win in Pro Stock Motorcycle, beats Joey Gladstone in the semifinal. Big run there, 675 with a 201.76. Then beats Jerry Savoie in the final, beats him off the tree on the tree, 675 with a 202 miles an hour. Matt Smith with the victory there, the multi-time champion in Pro Stock Motorcycle. And then Pro Mod, I'm trying to see where the heck is Ricky Smith got knocked off in the first round. Wow, interesting. So the standings going into the next race of the NHRA season, there will be a couple of weeks, I think, here. Yeah, a couple of weeks off before they go to the Texas Motorplex in Dallas. It starts this coming week anyway, but the NHRA race starts the following week. We'll go and preview it, the Fall Nationals in Dallas, and then they'll have a couple of weeks off before the Las Vegas, and then a further couple of weeks before Pomona and the Auto Club Finals. A bomb by, he threw it to nobody. He threw a Jimmy Garoppolo ball on that one. The top fuel standings going into Dallas, Justin Ashley is 14 points out of Steve Torrance, 30 points out of Brittany Force, 35 Mike Salinas, 43 on Antron Brown, 64 on Josh Hart, and 88 on Doug Coletta. So what it means is essentially 7 drivers are in this championship at the moment. 12 are in this playoff. 7 have a chance. I mean, it's really more like 6, but 7 are in there. And who knows? Milliken, Langdon, Proc could go and put a great race together at Dallas, maybe set a record and put themselves right back in the mix. So Top Fuel is looking crazy. Steve Torrance trying to keep his consecutive championships alive there. Funny Cars, a little more straightforward. Robert Height has got a 46-point lead on Ron Capps. Matt Hagan's 103 back. John Force 114 back. Bob Tasca 170 on the periphery of the championship. Throwing to wannabe, there's him throwing to wannabe Cooper Cup. So right now it's really Robert Height versus Ron Capps with 3 races to go, but Hagan, Force are still kind of in it. Tasca's had a great car at times during this year. Pro Stock, Eric Enders is probably going to win this. Oh, man. Eric Enders, 120-point lead on Aaron Stanfield, 153 on Kyle Koretsky, and 157 on Troy Coughlin, 160 on Greg Anderson, 170 on Dallas Glenn. So basically, as long as Eric Anders shows up, goes around the rest of this year, every single race, she's going to win another Pro Stock title. Matt Smith is up 21 on Joey Gladstone, 90 on his wife, Angie. Eddie Krawick's 106 behind, Steve Johnson 107, Jerry Savile 108, Angel Sampay 116. So that's where the Hassan Ridgway goes and gets that big sack there. Yeah, that's that LA Rams offensive line. So Matt Smith trying to get yet another championship. His battle is essentially with Joey Gladstone with 3 races to go. So something to look at as they go to Dallas. I mentioned the W Series. Most likely, as it stands, it doesn't seem like they're going to have another race because they've run out of money. If this ends up being their last race, it was a little different because somebody other than Jamie Chadwick won. Betske Visser gets a victory over Alice Powell and Marta Garcia. Balin Garcia 4th, Jessica Hawkins 5th. Chloe Chambers, the American who's gotten an F3 test, finished 11th, just outside the points. Jamie Chadwick actually fell out of the race, so which is interesting. The standings going into the USA, which they're supposed to finish their championship if they have the money to get there. Jamie Chadwick is now up by 50 points on Betske Visser and 50 points plus 50 and then another 7, 57 on Alice Powell. 57 on Alice Powell. That's really the battle. So I'm trying to see the races. Yeah. So they have 2 races to go in the season. Essentially, the battle is between those 3. Abby Pulling's on the back end of it. In regards to the points, she's the last one that really could do anything about it. The top 12 make next year's championship if there is another championship. There's 11 drivers that have kind of scored a bunch of points. Bruna Tomaselli and Abby Eaton are tied at 11 points, which, wow, that could have been a pick for E-Man. What's it called? Chloe Chambers would need a lot of help the last 2 races. If they have the last 2 races, Ayla Agron, I think, showed up as a fill-in, so it's not fair to her. So we'll see what happens with W Series if they do race at the U.S. Grand Prix here in a couple weeks' time. WRC ran Rally New Zealand and saw Callie Rovanpera. Oh, man, that almost was a pick 6 as well for Fred Warner. Callie Rovanpera becomes the youngest World Rally champion in history with 2 rounds to go, winning yet another race by 34.6 seconds over 9-time, or I don't know, I think 7-time world champion Sebastian Ogier, driving as his teammate in Toyota. Ott Tanak, former world champion in the Hyundai, finishes 3rd. Thierry Neuville, Oliver Solberg gives Hyundai's 3-4-5 Hayden Paddon, and in his home race in RC2, Rally 2 Hyundai finishes 6th overall, so credit to him on that. Excuse me. Shane Van Gisbergen finishes top 10, the champion-elect in the Supercars Championship, gets a top 10 in Rally New Zealand, so credit to him. Goes and wins the last race at Pukekohe, finishes top 10 in Rally New Zealand in a Skoda Fabia in the Rally 2 category. Guy can do anything, which goes and, credit to Callie Rovanpera. It's good for the sport. His dad was in the series when I first started watching. He's really talented. They need to promote him in the worst way. Kid has a lot of talent. He won a bunch of races this year, and it would speak to them giving him a lot of promotion, put him over, and talk about how good he is. And wow, look at that. That's a cool paint scheme for this weekend for Shell V, for the Dick Johnson Racing team, going back to the old school Shell V-Power or scheme from back in the day. 100 years of Repco, yeah, and Repco is a big sponsor for them, so they're going to run number 100 for 100 years of Repco with Anton Di Pasquale, Tony Alberto, and then, yeah, that's really cool. And then retro Repco livery 98 with the 98 scheme. Oh, that's badass. Hopefully one of the DJR cars wins. I have a hard time believing that's going to happen, but we have the Bathurst 1000 this coming weekend, the Great Race, one of the biggest races in the world, one of the toughest races to win. Oh, man, that was a pick. Oh, come on, Warren. Come on, Greenlaw. Pick that crap off. Ugh. Unbelievable. What is it? Calendar. We'll go to the calendar, and after this race, there'll still be 3 races to go, or 2 races to go in this season. There'll be the Gold Coast 500 at Surfers Paradise, and then the Adelaide 500 in the old Adelaide Formula One track, which has been altered a little bit. Trying to go and get the event guide, trying to go and get an entry list here. Now you have the track map, you got the event, blah, blah, blah. Accessible map, event program, digital. Oh, they have a digital program. Look at that. Good job by Supercars on that. Got all kinds of information here. This would be better. This would be something NASCAR could learn from with the way they have things set up. I'll purchase your hard copy. Fuck you. Ain't purchasing it. I want to know what the hell the entry list is for the Bathurst 1000. So essentially, here with the Bathurst 1000. As when it comes to the championship, I think it's double points for this race. I'm trying to go and get drivers, teams, results, championship points going into this race. Shane Van Gisbergen's the defending race winner at the Bathurst 1000 and has a 525-point lead over Cameron Waters, 602 over Will Davison, 669 over Anton Di Pasquale. Chaz Mostert, former winner of this race, is in 5th. Brock Feeney, the rookie teammate of Shane Van Gisbergen, is in 6th, taking over for Jamie Winchcup. Their former winner of this race, David Reynolds, is in 7th. Heimgartner, Brody Kostecki, Tim Slade round out the top 10. Frosty Winterbottom, former champion of this series, is in 11th. So we'll see what happens with that. I want to bring up Bathurst 1000 winners. So Bathurst 1000 winners, and the internet is not working. Hopefully we're still on the air. Yeah, we're still on the air. Thank God. Okay. So that part of the episode downloaded. So, okay, good. I'm downloading off of the Mount Panorama website, no less. Last year, they're showing 2021. Oh, so last year it was Chaz Mostert and really? Oh, wow. Chaz Mostert and Lee Holdsworth were the winners of the race last year. I thought it was Shane Van Gisbergen won it in 2021. My fault. Chaz Mostert and Lee Holdsworth were Walkinshaw Andretti United, so now he's a 2-time winner of this race. He won it for both Ford and Holden. SVG and Garth Tander won it in 20 for the Red Bull team. Scotty McLaughlin and Alex Pramat in 19. The legend Craig Lowndes with Steven Richards in 2018. David Reynolds and Luke Youlden in 17. Will Davis and John O'Webb in 16. Craig Lowndes and Steven Richards in 15. Chaz Mostert and Paul Morris 14. Frosty, a former winner with Steven Richards. So Steven Richards has won 3 Bathurst 1000s in recent years. So something to look at there. We'll see. I mean, Holden obviously has more numbers there. 6 wins in the last, 6 of the last 7 wins. In before that, a couple of Ford wins. So 6 of the last 9 wins at the Mountain. 7 of the last 10, going all the way back to Jamie Winchcup and Paul Dumbrell. So we'll see what happens with the great race and how things go for that. We'll talk about it on the next episode of the GSP. Now, World Superbikes at Portugal. Alvaro Bautista is in front. He had a great run at Catalunya, the last race, getting a triple, getting all 3 wins, and giving himself a huge gap over Toprak Raskat-Lioku and Johnny Ray. Garrett Gerloff getting a podium for the first time in a long time has put himself back in the mix to possibly get in the top 10 in points. His future teammate Loris Baz is right behind him, 4 points behind him. So there is a little bit of a battle there between Javi Viejas on a Honda, Gerloff, and Loris Baz for 10th in the championship. But the real battle is for who's going to win the world championship. Alvaro Bautista is in good position with 4 rounds to go in the championship. Remy Gardner is going to be going to the World Superbike to take over the bike that Garrett Gerloff was riding. And then the second bike will, with the GRT Yamaha team, will be ridden by former World Supersport champion Dominique Agater in 2023. So that'll be something to see. We'll see what happens with racing at Algarve, and then you have Villicum Mandalika, which is where they call it a street circuit, but I don't know how you call it a street circuit in Indonesia. But if they're racing, I don't get how you call it a street circuit, but whatever. British touring cars before we move in a week. 4 highlights since the Niners are going to win. I mean, largely due to basically one good offensive series and a pick 6 by the new Troy Polamalu in Hafunga. British touring cars has had a great championship this year, and there's one race to go in their season this coming weekend. We'll talk about it. You have the Ford Ash Sutton, defending series champion, and the Napa Ford team leading by 5 points over Jake Hill, 7 points over Tom Ingram, and multi-time BTCC champion Colin Turkington in 4th. I'm trying to go through the drivers. I'm trying to figure out who's driving for who, but they don't list it that way. Yeah, so it's Aiden Moffitt, and why would you put it that way? There's Rich Energy is actually a sponsor in the British Touring Car Championship, so there you go. Josh Cook, who's in the standings, I think. Yeah, Josh Cook is in 6th. Okay, fine. So Rich Energy doesn't have anything to do with it, but then they're sponsoring Jason Plato, so it kind of makes a lot of sense that they're sponsoring a team that's driven by Jason Plato. Anyways, the Halfords team, which is the team ran by Matt Neal, multi-time champion Gordon Shedden with them, Colin Turkington and Stephen Jelly. That's a West Surrey Racing BMW team. Bristol Street Motors is Dan Lloyd, Tom Chilton. Wow. And Tom Ingram, who is in the championship. They're running, what the hell are those cars? Might be the Hyundai i30Rs. Oh, okay. Interesting. Rocket MB Motorsport. That's not him. Rory Butcher. No. I'm assuming that, no. Okay. Napa Racing UK is, Ash Sutton and Dan Camish. Ash Sutton, who's leading. I'm trying to find who Jake Hill drives for in regards to what car he drives, but whatever. They don't want to put it here. This is a weird website, honest to God. And it's not because I'm a couple in. It's like, make it easier. If you have a driver, let me find my driver. Nicholas Hamilton drives for the Yazoo with Safu.com racing team. I should be able to find find a driver that connects to a certain team. It's not that easy, which is kind of dumb. Rory Butcher, Ricky Collard, and the Toyotas, Car Gods, Sicily, and Adam Morgan. That makes no sense. Makes no sense at all, but whatever. The reality of the world is 4 drivers battling for the championship, Turkington and the BMW, Tom Ingram there, Jake Hill, and Ash Sutton in the Ford. And we'll see what happens with that. And we'll talk about it next week in the next episode of the GSP. Jake Hill, he's driving for the Rocket BMW team, and front wheel drive to rear wheel drive, West Surrey Racing, Rocket MB Motorsports BMW. Trying to get to the standings. There you go. Ash Sutton is driving a Ford, so he's driving a front drive car. Jake Hill is driving a rear wheel drive BMW along with Colin Turkington, and then Ingram is in a Hyundai, so he's in a front drive car. So 2 front drive cars versus 2 rear wheel drive cars. Brands Hatch GP last race last round of the championship. Plenty to go through, not just the driver standings, manufacturers. Has BMW up by around 80 points on Motorbase Ford. In team standings, the Napa Racing UK Motorbase Ford team is up by 42 on the BMW West Surrey Racing team. In the Independents Championship, Josh Cook is up by nearly 100 points on Adam Morgan. Independent teams, the Rich Energy BTC Racing team is up by, 25 on Car Gods with Sicily Motorsports team. That's something we'll look at. The Jack Sears Trophy sees Bobby Thompson the leader. The Goodyear Wingfoot Award, because they had to go and badge Dunlops as Goodyears to show that they don't make terrible tires, even though they still do. Jake Hill leads that by 15 points over Colin Turkington. We'll get into that next week for the next episode of the GSP in 138. Josh, you've had a little time to kind of wait. The Niners have won, so I'm feeling better about the world. They're 2-2. They've beaten both of their division rivals. They've lost to two of the worst teams in the league, but they're 2-2. You won your matchup in fantasy, so good on you. Congrats on that. You can talk about fantasy. You can talk about your Jaguars here as we talk about football here for the next few minutes. So take it away.
Yeah, I mean, for fantasy, I mean, so far won by less than 1 point victory over Island of Irrelevancy, aka Steve. Deebo Samuel getting the win there with a couple of, one touchdown and a couple of rushes and catches and everything. So good there. We'll see. Presumably have won, but it's looking like that. But we'll have to wait for the adjustments. Post game for especially on defense, the statisticians. Going and changing the correcting the tackling and defensive stats and all that. We'll see what happens on there, but presumably I've won, so now I'm improved to 3-1. Thought it was going to be 2-2, but 3-1 is better than 2-2. But big game by Tyreek Hill on Thursday Night Football. Big game by Geno Smith, who seemingly has outperformed Russell Wilson for the year. Big game by Foye Oluokun in the losing effort for the Jacksonville Jaguars on Sunday in Philadelphia. So good games there. Derrick Henry, big game there, and looking good so far. Might have to continue just to work the waiver wire and patch together my team, but getting a win there, so should get us into the top 5. After 1 quarter of the way through the year in fantasy. For the Jaguars, losing game on Sunday to the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles won 29-21 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Rainy game the whole way. The whole game was raining. Trevor Lawrence fumbled 4 times through a pick. James Robinson fumbled on 1 carry, but the Jaguars recovered it. So Lawrence responsible for 5 turnovers. Just a really bad game, but they were still able to stay within a possession for most of the game, and then they were able to close within 8 points at the end, but they couldn't close it out. They stopped the Eagles on 4th down at the end of the game, right before the 2-minute drill, to give the Jaguars the ball back. But then Trevor Lawrence fumbled once again, getting a strip sack fumble, just unable to hold on to the ball throughout the game at various points. Had a 4th down scramble trying to throw the ball, and ball fell out of his hands. Had a QB sneak on 3rd and 1, I think, and tried to run the ball up the middle and fumble the ball there. Then two sack plays where he got sacked and then fumbled the ball. So seemed somehow the ball security, particularly fumbling, seems to be an issue right now. But maybe it's just because of the rain. We'll see. But I mean, Jalen Hurts also played the same game and didn't have any issues fumbling. So got to work on that maybe a little bit this week in practice. they only ran the ball 8 times with Travis Etienne and James Robinson. So Doug Peterson is talking about his game plan. They wanted to stay in the pass and wanted to be able to attack through the air, even with the weather, which is good philosophy to not have to be fluid with your game plan. But at the same time, it's also the rain, and you have 2 of the best running backs in the league right now. So should be able to adjust the game plan to play accordingly. And then on defense, a little bit thin, up the middle on defense. They're already thin going into the game. They, don't have a whole lot of physicality in the middle, in their defensive line. Most of it's speed on the outside, but it's looking like kind of 2017 again in that perspective as well, because the Jaguars that year, they were able to get sacks and everything, but they had problems stopping the run, especially up the middle, until they traded for Marcel Darius in 2017 before their bye week that year. And then this year, so far, this game they had some issues running up the middle. So we'll see if that continues to be an issue. One of their players was hurt, but it may continue on. We'll have to see. But so far, they're 2-2, which is better than what most people thought. But same time, could easily be 3-1, possibly even 4-0 if things went right for us. So long way to go, but Jaguars are definitely the favorites right now to win the AFC South. In addition to that, they are a touchdown favorite this weekend going into their matchup at home against the Houston Texans, who have been struggling this year with the 0-3-1 record. So we'll see what happens there. And then, on top of this, something that we should watch out for Trevor Lawrence. He's had 5 times in his career where he has had a chance to either win the game by leading a touchdown drive or, leading a touchdown drive to tie the game, and all 5 times has failed to deliver. Go back to his games against Indianapolis, away at Indianapolis last year, at home against the Atlanta Falcons, and then on the road last year against the New York Jets, and then this year on the road at Washington and at Philadelphia, where had a chance to, Washington go and win the game, with touchdown, respond to the late game touchdown by Carson Wentz. And then this game where they're down by 8, after 5 turnovers on a day, they fumbled again, or 4 turnovers, they fumbled again, and ended up failing to win. So that's a concern. Trevor, needing to be able to lead a touchdown drive down the field and, either win the game or tie the game, force overtime or something like that is something I have to watch out for. And something that we probably maybe deserves a little bit more criticism on, but we'll have to see. And maybe have to look at other quarterbacks and their success. When did they first, finally have a touchdown leading drive down the field to win a game or force overtime? So we'll see what happens next week against the Texans, but not too worried about that. So should be a good bounce back game, get right game for the Jaguars against the Houston Texans, and we'll go from there. But disappointing loss, but it's only week 4, so they have plenty of time to recover. But let's limit the turnovers like we saw on Sunday to never happening again, hopefully. So we'll see.
Yeah, the Niners were able to go and get their victory, take the lead in the NFC West with their win over the defending Super Bowl champion LA Rams. Held them to, I guess, 3 field goals. So that was pretty good. They were getting after Matthew Stafford. Andrew Whitworth is now working for Amazon Prime, and they missed him today. The defensive line, the front 7, was feasting on the LA Rams. They were able to drive down the field, but they weren't able to close out drives. That's my man right there, Deebo Samuel. 2 road games in the NFC South coming up against the hapless Carolina Panthers and the basically seemingly similar Atlanta Falcons. So could get out of that realm, get out of that at 4-2 before they come home to play against Kermit the Frog and the Kansas City Chiefs. That'll be another Super Bowl rematch there. It'll be hard for them to play against the Kansas City Chiefs. It's going to be a lot of points, though. The last time they played the Chiefs, they held them down for most of the game. So we'll see what happens with that. Hopefully, it's a positive. Debo was able to break out tonight. GK was able to look good, and I mean, he should have had a score there, but Jimmy didn't lose us the game. Niners played well. Kind of felt like they were going to do it, but I didn't want to go and get all excited about it. They seem to play against the Rams pretty well. Unfortunately, they laid an egg in the biggest match that they've had against the Rams in a long time in January. I also signed for them to wear those throwback jerseys forever because I love them. It brings me back to 1994 when Steve Young won the Super Bowl. So I would sign for them to wear those jerseys, period. They're cooler, they're better, they're cleaner. They have more options with that. You can wear the gold pants, you can wear the white pants, you can go and wear the white with the gold, you can go wear red pants with the white. Like, you can go and change it up. Like, you have more options. But the fact of the matter is the Niners are back in play. Honest to God, they should be 3-1 right now. Probably 4-0, and they'd be 4-0. They could have been 3-1 or 4-0 or 2-2 with Lance. But instead, he's in a wheelchair sitting there watching Debo playing basketball with his fam and all that. Hopefully he'll be back. But Hufanga is an absolute freak of nature. But he had 3 solo tackles, 1 assist, an interception with a touchdown, and a pass deflection for 19 points. Hufanga has had an amazing year this year, and he's only going to get better because he's an absolute freak of nature. He's basically wannabe. I said that. Troy Polamalu, and he's really effing good, and it's a good thing. I mean, the league this week, oh man, it's crazy. I finished 8th this week in points, and I'm still going to win because Vic's team sucks. And Vic has double the amount of moves I have, and he's used just as much as amount of waiver budget. There are teams that haven't used any. Jeff and Professor J's never going to use waiver budget. He doesn't know what it is. Josh doesn't use it, at least as of now. Luke hasn't used it. Manny doesn't know what waiver budget is. Steve has, and so is Wilson. But the fact of the matter is, I think waiver budget's going to be used a little bit this week. 62-point victory for Wilson, and he didn't. And to be fair, Wilson had Alvin Kamara in his lineup, and he blamed it on being a dad and being on the West Coast, and he was asking for a sub, and I'm like, I don't think you need a sub. You've won by more points than anybody. He ends up beating Manny pretty big. Josh right now is up by less than a point over Steve, so we'll see what the IDP corrections bring. I mean, to be fair, if there's any IDP corrections, I think they would come towards the side of Steve, which would be better for you, Josh. Naeem Hines did nothing. Darren Waller, in a day where the Vegas Raiders actually did something, only had 3 for 24, which is crazy. The rest of your team did work. Derek Carr was just there. Geno Smith, essentially at this point, is like your QB1, which is scary to think. But Alan Lazard's probably going to play. Myles Garrett you're not using your IR spot. You have 2 guys that are out. You could use an IR spot, but you're welcome. So we'll get into fantasy next week. Josh is looking pretty tired, so we'll go and move forward to the Japanese Grand Prix. Make some picks here for the Japanese Grand Prix. I'm going on Racing Reference based on active drivers. Sebastian Vettel is the best driver that has run more than one race at this racetrack. 4 wins, 9 top 5s, 10 top 10s with 5 poles, with a 3.3 average start and a 4.0 average finish. Lewis Hamilton just behind him he does have 10 top 5s and 11 starts, and 2 poles, but he has a 3.5 average start, 4.4 average finish. So it's very close between the two guys that are essentially like the Federer and Nadal of Formula One. Valtteri Bottas, pretty good there. Verstappen in 5 starts has 3 top 5s and 4 top 10s. So I guess it foreshadows what we're gonna say here, Josh. Ricciardo, can he keep the momentum there? Alonso's actually won there. There are 4 drivers that have won at this racetrack. Vettel, Hamilton, Bottas, Alonso, 10 wins amongst those 4. Verstappen hasn't won there yet, but who do you think is going to win on Sunday at the Japanese Grand Prix? First time we've had a Japanese Grand Prix since 2019.
Yeah, so this is another race that we've had first time since COVID. Verstappen has another opportunity to go out and win the championship. So if he need to do the math here, but strong chance if
he only has to score 4 more points than what do you call Charles Leclerc, essentially, if he finishes ahead of Charles Leclerc, for all intents and purposes, he's going to be the champion. If he wins, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so if he wins, then it doesn't matter. So, with the pace that the Red Bull has had this year, they should be able to, start up front and win the race. But of course, they're not invincible. We saw what they did this past weekend and their ability with, getting the fuel strategy right in qualifying, I'm sure it's not going to happen again, but the fact that they made a mistake like that shows they're not that invincible as what they may have looked like. So there's maybe a little bit of hope, but not very much. So as long as he qualifies well, Verstappen should win the race fairly easily. But I think the other question is for Red Bull, for their teammate in Sergio Perez, he won the race this past weekend. But if it is a situation where Verstappen needs, has an opportunity to win, does he play the teammate role, and does he be that minister of defense that he nicknamed that he got last year from the championship in Abu Dhabi? Does he play that role here in Suzuka to try to ensure Max Verstappen victory or finish ahead of Charles Leclerc? So look out for that if that happens. We'll see if that happens. Then for Ferrari, they've had chances to win this year, and they had another opportunity this past weekend in Singapore. They finally if they have the pace, can they actually challenge Red Bull for this victory and make it harder for Max Verstappen to win this championship than he wants to? I think Leclerc, if they can, maybe they have the pace, but it's all dependent on their execution of their strategy. As they've always had issues this year so far with their strategy and throwing away race wins, throwing away podiums and things like that. So that's what I'm looking out for this weekend. And then also McLaren Racing, of course, they've had another opportunity. They got a top 5 for both of their cars, and you mentioned Ricciardo earlier. Well, can his teammate Lando Norris, can they follow up? It's actually going to be his. I think he's had a chance to race at Suzuka now after 2019. He's raced there, so not the first time for Lando Norris in Suzuka, but it's been a few years now for everybody. So can McLaren again try to get in the points, maybe get some points back from and continue to separate themselves from Alpine in the midfield battle there. So that's what I'm looking out for this weekend. And then you mentioned Lewis Hamilton earlier too, and Mercedes did not have a good race weekend this past week at Singapore, so can use this weekend as kind of a bounce back in a way. Maybe, I don't know if they get podium or not, but can they get the better finish, say like within a top five or something like that, where both cars get into the points and they can stay within a certain amount of time to Max Verstappen or whoever is the leader at the end, and both of them can finish on the lead lap at the very end of the race. I think that's what you have to look out for here this weekend at Suzuka.
So just to confirm, you picked Max to win and lock up the world championship. He can also lock it up as long as he wins and gets the fastest lap, no matter what.
Yeah.
What's his name? Leclerc does.
Yeah.
It'll be over.
Yeah. And
who did you pick as your wild card?
Yeah, as my wild card this weekend. I'm gonna go with Lando Norris as a wild card this weekend. I want to see, follow up with this finish at Singapore. He's the number one guy at McLaren. His team had a good finish as well, but he's the face, he's the future, and we want to see him, potentially challenge for a podium if he's able to, or repeat the finish that he had this past weekend at Singapore. I think that's what you have to look out for.
So I'm going to go follow your lead. Verstappen gets the win, fastest lap, pole, gets the Grand Slam probably, and gets the championship for now. We'll see what they do in the tribunal and all that shit here in a couple days. Probably talk about it next week. In regards to a wild card, I mean, it's not really a wild card in a sense. I did pick Fernando Alonso to qualify in the top five and essentially finish in the top five. I mean, flirt with a podium. That would probably be the pick. I don't think he's going to win. I have a hard time believing he's going to win. To be fair, even though they had the pace, they had decent pace on Sunday at Singapore, it wasn't that great. He was able to hold off Max Verstappen, so if he can qualify in the front row with the rain that is theoretically, they're saying the weather forecast is for rain. So, but I'm going to pick Carlos Sainz, his countryman, as the wild card for the Formula One race at the Japanese Grand Prix. First time at Suzuka, legendary track. Plenty of great races, plenty of historic races have taken place there. Gonna go to the XFinity Series now and the Roval, Charlotte Road Course to drive for the Cure 250. AJ Allmendinger is a 3-time defending race winner at this race. So it's basically screaming out at me to go and pick AJ Allmendinger. He just won last week. He has now been signed to be a driver next year in the Cup Series. And what the hell? I'll pick AJ Allmendinger. Why not? I usually don't get these anyways, so I'm probably going to be the reason why for Xfinity at the Roval, AJ Allmendinger to win. And my wild card pick, since the Xfinity race has some interesting players, Josh, there's 41 for 38, so there's going to be a little bit of issue for trying to qualify. Sage Karam driving for Our Motorsports, so he won't be in as good of a car. Or I guess it's kind of like iffy difference between the cars that he's going to be in relative to what he was in Alpha Prime. Vargas is actually driving this weekend, so good on him. Bringing out Reddit to the nation in regards to racing. Can't believe Joe Graff Jr. is in this race. It tells you all you need to know. He's probably going to be at least 2 cautions. James Davison, as I mentioned earlier, will be in the 18 car. Danny Kvyat's running double duty, driving the 26 for Sam Hunt. Austin Wayne Self, he needs to qualify on time. I doubt he will. Kaz Gralla will be driving the 34 for Wuji. Brad Perez will be trying to make it in a Emerling Gase Ford number 35. Alex Labey, who's had great success in the 36 car, will be there for Mario Goslin. Steve Addington, wow, I didn't know he was working for Sieg. That's interesting. Him and Cowboy Starlin. Stefan Parsons will be driving the number 45 with Frankie Kurz as crew chief. Josh Balicki will be driving as his teammate. Marco Andretti making his NASCAR debut. The SRX champion will be making his NASCAR debut this weekend with Big Machine Racing. Scott Porchetta, Patrick Donahue at the helm. Brennan Poole trying to make the race with Means Motorsports. They haven't had that much luck this year. Chris Wrong in the Brandon Built Motorsports 68. Preston Pardis in the 91 with his dad, Dan, crew chiefing. Andy Lally in the 08, Timmy Hill in the 13, Brandon Brown in the 78 for BJ McLeod, and Josh Williams running double duty, running the 92 for Mario Gosselin, and then running the 78 for BJ McLeod. So yeah, I'm picking AJ Allmendinger. I mean, that's pretty easy. My wild card, I mean, I would have picked Marco if it didn't make me want to puke, because he's a douche and he blocks people because he's hypersensitive, even though he's a fucking multimillionaire. And he's been able to live the life that most of us would dream of, being the son of a legend, and your grandfather's one of the greatest race car drivers of all time. And he's a bitch. He was a hack, and he backdoored an SRX title, to be fair, because of the nonsense that went on in USAC and the terrible scoring that went on. And he broke his wrist too in the process, which was stupid. Not his fault. I mean, it's just the stupidity of SRX this past year that he broke his wrist and he still won the championship. But I'm going to pick Danny Kvyat as my wild card. I know he has virtually no chance, but it's a road course race with the Xfinity Series. It's liable to be a lot of destruction. He's the kind of guy that knows how to make things work, albeit not in stock cars. I mean, driving the Gen 7 car and now jumping in an Xfinity car. I'm really making a wild card pick there, Josh. But who are you looking at for the Roval for the Xfinity?
Well, this week, Roval, I'm going to roll with Ty Gibbs, the Roval on this side. We talked about his performance of the year, and, he seems like, it's been a while since he's won, but it's only been since August. And, after that, it's been all Noah Gragson seemingly in the Xfinity Series, but, he won at Road America, earlier in the summer. First career victory and first career start in the Xfinity Series was at the Daytona Road Course back in February 2021. So he's got a couple of road course victories under his belt already, and he's shown to have a lot of pace if things go right. So I'm going to pick Ty Gibbs this weekend to win the Roval. And for my wild card, I'm going to go with Marco. Actually, you pick Daniel Kvyat, the former F1 guy. I'll pick Marco Andretti in his first career NASCAR Xfinity start, first career stock car start in NASCAR, of course, experience with SRX, like you said. So he's got a little bit, it's not going to be too unfamiliar, but it should be interesting watching him race against these guys, him mostly being a former open wheel guy, for the most part. So it should be interesting seeing Marco and what he's able to do with the Big Machine Racing car number 48. So picking him this weekend. And you also have the elimination stuff as well for the Xfinity Series. And
I forgot about that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like for the most part, the field is set. Maybe 7th and 8th are the only ones that may be on shaky ground. But I have to believe that Sam Mayer is able to hold his weight and make it into the round of 8 cutoff. And Ryan Sieg is a little bit more on shaky ground, only 6 points ahead of Dale Hemrick. Neither of these guys, I think, are really known for road course racing. But I'm going to go with the Kaulig car. Maybe something trickles down from AJ Allmendinger and their team to get his teammate into the round of 8. Continue to have a chance to defend his 2021 Xfinity title. So I'm going to say that the only change that we see in the round of from round of 8 is Dale Hemrick making it in and Ryan Sieg making it out, and then the rest of the round of 12, the rest of the 12 that are in right now, Jeremy Clements, Brandon Jones, and Riley Herbst are the ones that get eliminated along with Ryan Sieg.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I mean, the stats agree with that as well. So Hemrick has had 3 starts at the Roval, 2 top 5s and 3 top 10s with an average of a 5.3 finish. So it agrees with you. Just to give a contrast with, I'm trying to find Ryan Sieg. Ryan Sieg has 4 starts at the Roval, 19th average start, and essentially a 30th place finish average with 3 finishes out of 4. So it essentially is going against Ryan Sieg here. When it comes to this race, Alex Labbe is a good wild card. Somebody would be great to see him win for the sport, for him as a former CASCAR champion, for Mario Gosselin, minus some of the shit he's done and he's gotten charged for. But yeah, Hemrick is definitely someone. This is a race. This race, the next 3 weeks, honestly, is going to determine if Daniel Hemrick has a ride, honestly. If he can advance to the round of 8, Homestead's a great racetrack for him. Vegas is a great racetrack for him. If he can go and do work, and he's good at Martinsville, to be fair, he could determine his career and what he does next year, because I figure Kaulig, we were talking about it, Phil Spain, he doesn't go and, Phil Spain's high society now, now that he's got a big following. I'm pretty sure he won't come on our show anymore, but responded to some of his posts. I think Kaulig's going to contract to 2 cars so they can focus more on the 2 cup cars. I know that AJ Allmendinger has a good working relationship with that whole crew. I wonder what's going to happen in regards to whether they bring some of the people he's had here on the Xfinity side over there and vice versa. If they make any changes to the 31 car. I don't think they're going to change a crew chief. Trent Owens is a great crew chief, so they're not going to make that change. But I figure they're only going to have 2 Xfinity cars, which is probably going to leave Landon Castle out in the lurch. Are they going to call Chandler Smith, perhaps, since he's on the outs at Kyle Busch Motorsports? Does Toyota save him? What about John Hunter Nemechek? It sounds like he's going to stay with Toyota. He's pretty solid there. Who do you call in? Does Hemrick stay? If he can make a good run here these next 5 weeks, he has a job for next year. He won't be the champion more than likely, but he'll have a job. And for being a driver he's a good driver. He's a champion, and he's a good guy, but that's something he needs to advance. He has the ability to, he has a team to, and he has the help, and so we'll see what happens with that. Cup Series at the Roval, 39 for 40, so nobody's going to fail to qualify this weekend at the Roval. In the Cup Series, the interesting players that we wouldn't see usually. Trying to bring this up here. Cup Series drivers, 4 times they've raced. Limit data the last 5 races. Good. And then active drivers only. Active drivers only. It's not that shocking. William Clyde Elliott II, 2 wins, 3 top 10s, 64 laps led, average finish of 5th is the best. Blaney has a win with 4 top 10s. Bowman, if he runs, which he's finishing top 10 every time he's ran at the Roval and ran every lap. Reddick is someone that he's only run 2 times at the Roval, but has an average finish of 7th. Logano, Hamlin, Larson. Kurt Busch doesn't count in this case. Cole Custer, Kevin Harvick. He's out of playoffs. Trying to see here. William Byron has led 80 laps at the Roval, which is interesting. I think that's the most to anybody. Yeah, it is. William Byron's led more laps than anybody at the Roval over the 4 years of this experiment. 14.5 average, just ahead of Christopher Buescher and Chris Bell, if I'm going to go and change names the way Dale Jr. changes them. But you have the floor, Josh, for your picks for the Roval and who's going to advance into the round of 8 for the Cup Series.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I'm going to go with the guy that won the initial Roval race in 2018, and I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney. But he has a good record at the Roval. He won the initial one, and then finished eighth, fifth, and ninth, the 3 years since that win. So he's got a pretty good record. So I'm going to go with Ryan Blaney winning and finally getting his first win of the year here and locking himself into the round of eight this season. Wild card, you mentioned, in what we talked about in the Xfinity Series, the IndyCar guy, Marco Andretti. Well, I'm going to go the IndyCar theme here, and I'm going to go with Connor Daly as the wild card. The counterpart to the SRX, he was the announcer for some of the SRX races. So, I'm going to go with his buddy Connor Daly here, racing for Floyd Mayweather Jr. here with the TMT Money Racing team. So go with him here this weekend. Should be interesting. First career NASCAR start in the Cup Series for Connor Daly. So a couple of first career guys I'm picking here, but very curious to see what they're able to do behind the wheel of a stock car here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway road course this weekend. So that's what I'm thinking for the race. For the standings, as far as who gets to advance, the real tight battle right here is the tie between Cindric and Chase Briscoe. Both of these guys are really good at road course racing, but I'm going to go. I'm going to fade your guy Chase and go with Austin Cindric sneaking his way into the round of eight. I think his natural road course background, maybe I favor him a little bit more. Plus, Team Penske seems to hit this strategy a little bit better overall as a team than the 14 Stuart Haas right now. So I'm gonna fade him, Chase, and I know you mentioned William Byron, having a good amount of laps led at the Roval, but I'm going to fade him also, and Chris Bell. It's very unlikely Chris Bell, unless he wins, can he make it into the round of eight? So very hard there. And then of course Bowman's in a Hail Mary situation. We don't even know yet if he's going to race, considering his concussion. So we can assume that he's going to be eliminated this weekend. So I've got Briscoe, Byron, Bell, and Bowman. So the four Bs in this minus Blaney in this playoff bracket here. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking this weekend. Think everybody else is good on points, and you have guys that have been successful as of late on the road courses. Like Dale Suarez, who won first career race at Sonoma. Kyle Larson won last year on the Roval. In his championship run. Logano seems to average out well on road courses, and he's won on road courses before. Hamlin's always going to figure out a way. Ross Chastain also has been pretty good on road courses this year. And then, you've got Blaney and Elliott, who've also been fairly well on road courses, so overall in their careers. So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking this weekend here as we move on to the round of eight here in the NASCAR playoffs.
Yeah, good picks and makes sense there. I posted them there. You picked YRB Connor, but the going essentially chalk on the playoff picks for me. I mean, you're leaving him out there. I might as well just go for the chalk pick. In regards to, just to go and let people know, people that aren't in the regular races like every week, Joey Hand's driving for Rick Ware in the number 15 Ford. AJ Allmendinger driving the number 16 car this weekend in the Cup Series. Trying to scroll down. Of course, Keebler in the 23. Danny Kvyat and Loris Henzemans in the Hezerberg cars. Kvyat will be in a Toyota. Loris Hezemans will be in a Ford. And trying to scroll through. Connor Daly, of course, for TMT with Tony Uri Jr. as his crew chief. Mike Rockenfeller will be in the number 77 for Spire. And then Josh Williams will be in the 78 for Live Fast. For me, I'm going to pick Clyde because it's out there. Why not? The way I make picks, I usually make picks and they don't go the right way, so whatever. It'll probably make it a better race if Clyde's out. Or Roval, Clyde. So William Clyde Elliott I to win. And then my wild card. Who's my wild card? I'm gonna go with, just based on the average finish. I'm gonna go with Dale Jr.'s boy, Christopher Buescher. And I'm going to put it in that way. Christopher Buescher.
Solid pick.
He is fourth based on active drivers, utilizing Racing Reference. 5 top 10s, 2 top 5s in the last 10 road course races, 11.4 average finish. And they had a chance at Sonoma, which is essentially the closest road course to this road course, and he's coming off winning at another SMI track. So Christopher Buescher would be my wild card selection. I'm going to say that both Gumby, Cindric, and Chase Briscoe make the round of 8. Daniel Suarez falls out. William Byron, Christopher Bell, and Alex Bowman. I mean, I don't think Alex Bowman's driving this weekend, so that's whatever. William Byron and Christopher Bell, which is, I mean, it's kind of insane to consider how good Christopher Bell's round of 16 was, and they threw it out the window, and he has one bad race, the first race of the round at Kansas, and now he's going to miss the round of 8. He's one of the 8 best drivers in the Cup Series this year. Cindric and Briscoe, I mean, I'm saying this as a Briscoe fan, neither of them really belong in this playoff. I mean, there should only be a 12-driver playoff, and then we might not be in this position anyway. But, I mean, it's crazy to think that, but Ryan Blaney wouldn't be in this playoff either if there was a 12-driver playoff. So I'm under the current setup, but it's neither here nor there. I figure Briscoe and Cindric both make it into the round of 8. Suarez has issues, even though he's good on the road courses. They have mechanical or something to get wrecked because people are doing argy-bargy because they decided they didn't want to wreck each other last week at Talladega. And then everybody else that's behind him falls out of the playoffs. So, yeah, that is that. So we will throw to you, Josh, for the sim segment. I know you're working this week. You're on the road, so maybe you're not going to be doing anything on the sim side, but did you do anything last weekend? I think Open Wheels 500 is coming up, so prep in regards to that for you for that race?
Yeah, potentially. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do it yet. Just trying to, not because I don't want to, just like, scheduling thing and everything, but we'll see there. I got to look at the calendar before I, sign up for that. Hope, I just got to look if I'm free and everything, just make sure. But, I mean, this past weekend, of course, past week, we had the hurricane and, ended up having a couple of days at home and, waiting it out. So ran a bunch of Talladega with the Cup car and the Xfinity car at Talladega. And yeah, it was, Xfinity, the strategy is just to stay up front in both races. Like I usually did not qualify. Just took the starting provisional or whatever and start from the back and just try to draft my way up to the front or up to the top 10 and hang around there to the end and just try to race smart and avoid incidents, which I feel like I was able to do for the most part and avoid the big wrecks. But I was able to do that for the most part and try to just bump draft to the whoever was in front of me, push them to the win and do that. And I was able, for the most part, I felt like I was able to kind of do that. And Cup wasn't as successful as Xfinity, but I feel like maybe the Xfinity style package was maybe fits my style more of wanting to push draft the whole way around on the racetrack as much as possible. But, the Cup car does have the bigger runs, in the draft, especially in when you're at the back of the pack and you're trying to get a run, you just get this huge burst of speed at some point down the back stretch or on the front stretch. And then you got to make a decision whether you lift and stay in line or you try to make a move to, go to the outside or go to the inside if there's room there. So, that was what I was trying to do with the Cup car. Xfinity, trying to just push and stay up front. And that's I was able to do for the most part there. But it was always fun running Talladega, and regardless of the series. In iRacing, so always glad to do that one. But yeah, I am on travel this week, so maybe not sure yet what I'll be able to do yet until I get back. And I don't know yet when I get back, I might have to do some catch up work on other things I have to do at home. But we'll see. I'll definitely let you know if I am getting to do anything for sure there. And one thing with the hurricane, I was running Xfinity at Cup or at Talladega, and then finished that race. And while I was racing that, I noticed like my kitchen light was beginning to flicker a little bit, and I started getting a little nervous that the power was going to go out while I was racing iRacing. And I was able to stay on, and then I registered for the Cup race, and while I was waiting, everything went black and lost power. So yeah, it was a little bit worried during it, because I didn't want to get eliminated because of the power while I was running my race. And so at least I was in the lobby waiting for Cup to begin when the power went out. And then after that I was like, well, may as well just go to bed. So went to bed, and woke up a couple of hours later to the kitchen lights being on, and power was back on and everything. So I had to go turn those off and go back to bed. But that was basically my hurricane experience with the power going out and everything. But very fortunate that no other damage occurred or anything like that, other than that in my fence. But of course, thoughts and prayers go out to the people in Fort Myers and western coast of Florida, southwest coast, because it's very, very catastrophic damage there that took place. And certainly a lot of repair, rebuilding that needs to be made. So hopefully people are able to recover from that, and all that damage and everything. So I mean, if I end up being able to this weekend, as always, follow Twitch TV/usailor2, and you can go there and watch myself, which I did stream on one of my Talladega races. I think it was Cup, and I ended up finishing in the top 20. As I had a chance to go for the lead, and then I took the run and just didn't have enough draft behind me to stay up in the lead, and then faded to the back, and then ended up getting caught up in some stuff. But that's how it goes sometimes at Talladega. But that's how that one went. But overall, the week was pretty interesting with Talladega racing for the most part. And of course, follow my social media at JP Huffine, and all my Jaguars takes, NASCAR takes, other takes, with markets and stuff. It's starting to get volatile and everything. It's important to follow, because if you're into that stuff, maybe it's a good time to start looking at buying stuff and investing. So look at that. All the other things I'm interested in, post on Twitter and everything. So look on there. Then of course you can follow our YouTube channel, at Purchase Podcast, where we have latest content, up to this episode up on there. You can watch our stuff and, see what we have to say in video format, as always. And then, we have that, last thing, we have that ticket promotion or whatever with the Map 360 Collective Co., which I think we have tickets this weekend for the Roval race, and we have 2 tickets available. So we should be getting that this weekend.
I think we have tickets for 3 of the next 4 races or something.
3 of the next 4 races.
We have Martinsville, we have
Homestead,
which I think
Phoenix.
Yeah.
Phoenix. So we'll see. I'm not sure yet if I'd actually be able to attend, but once we get them, we'll make a decision, and either use them ourselves, or we'll give them out to somebody. I know our friend Joe is going to go to that race, because he's going to be on the way back from Florida, going back up to Jersey and everything. So maybe he can help us spread the word there for tickets and everything. And they wanted us to also mention the Race for the Championship show, which is on USA. At 10 p.m. on Thursday nights. So if you're a fan of racing, or you want to know more about it, you can go there and watch that. Watched it a couple times myself, and it's actually pretty good. And hopefully, they're able to expand upon it, in future years, and try to drum up more interest, similar to, how Formula One's Drive to Survive series has drummed up interest in Formula One in America with Netflix. So maybe there can be some effect there. We'll see. But yeah, as always, Phil, thanks for accommodating me, especially with my arrangements this week. So appreciate that, and thanks for having me on and being able to do this.
Absolutely, brother. I wouldn't do it without you. Unless you weren't able to show up and you're away or something, and then I'll find a fill-in. We have a great vibe. We have a great thing here on the GSP. When I'm rambling and losing my mind, you're able to deal with it. There's very few people that probably would put up with my shit. So I credit you, and I'm glad that we're friends and we're able to do this, and we're two theoretically like-minded people sane, whatever, common sense type people that can go and talk about motorsports in a way and kind of give different views. It may not be what everyone wants to hear, but we'll give views of motorsports. And so with that, you can find us, as Josh said, at GripStripPod on Twitter. We're on YouTube. Josh handles that with the video feed. You can find me at Philip G. Matthew on Twitter, Philip G. Matthew 28 on Instagram. You can also, we'll see if we can get some of these prize packs. I think that's what we need to do. Go and email her and say, hey, hook us up with some prize packs. We promoted it on the podcast. I'll try to get it out here early this week for the Roval. I was slacking because I was really busy last week. I'll be a little slower this week, so we'll be able to get this sound out prior to the Roval. And we'll be back for episode 138, normal circumstances, after the Roval, previewing Las Vegas. We'll be talking about Vegas, Cup, and Xfinity. Won't be a whole lot more in motorsports next week because Formula One will be off. So the season's kind of slowing down. MotoGP, Moto2 will be running in Australia at Phillip Island. Otherwise, we'll get into the Cup and Xfinity at the Roval, Japanese Grand Prix, where Fish Lips is going to theoretically become a world champion for the first time, second time in regards to records, but first time, and whatever else that comes along in regards to the world of motorsports and sports. Baseball next week, the wild card round will have taken place, so we'll see who actually theoretically makes the playoffs. The Mets are going to end up going to the wild card, and they're going to have to try to fade the San Diego Padres. Yankees are going to be in. Will Aaron Judge pass Roger Maris to get the AL record? It would be something if these assholes would actually pitch to him. Since they're pitching to Albert Pujols, which is something, it's probably because he's old and they know he's going to retire. So he's already got 703 home runs, largely because they're pitching to him. Come on now, pitch to Aaron Judge. If they pitched to Aaron Judge, he'd have been close to Sammy Sosa. I'm going to get on a soapbox here. The fact is, they would pitch to the fucking guy. He'd be able to win the Triple Crown, and he'd be able to have 66 home runs. But they don't want to pitch to him because they're fucking pussies. And it's bullshit. But we'll see what happens. By this time next week, we'll know how many home runs Aaron Judge has. He should get 6 for 240, whatever. Yeah, he should get 6 for 240. And the Philadelphia, wow. First time since 2011. They fired Joe Girardi, and they still made the playoffs. The Philadelphia Phillies made the playoffs. Good God. Wow. And they fired Joe Girardi in the process after that. So, all right. On that note, we're going to end this episode of Grip Strip Podcast. We'll be back next week for episode 138 of the GSP. For Josh, I'm Phil. Jacksonville's in a good spot. Niners are in a good spot next week, so we should both be in a good mood, football-wise, hopefully. And we'll talk all about that and motorsports next week on the Grip Strip Podcast. Take care, God bless, and goodbye.